I finished part 1. I was up until 4 o'clock in the morning last night because I finished it at 1:45. And I couldn't fall asleep because I wanted to know what happens. Hey everybody, this is Kat.
And this is Rachel.
And you're listening to the Smut Peddlers podcast, a show for people who love books, especially when they're smut. We discuss our likes, our dislikes, and share all our favorite moments with you.
Today we're talking about Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. So grab your favorite beverage and get ready to burn with us. Celaena Sardothien has embraced her identity as Aelin Galathynius, Queen of Terrasen, but before she can reclaim her throne, she must fight. She will fight for her cousin, a warrior prepared to die for her. She will fight for her friend, a young man trapped in an unspeakable prison. And she will fight for her people, enslaved to a brutal king and awaiting their lost queen's triumphant return. Everyone Aelin loves has been taken from her. Everything she holds dear is in danger. But she has the heart of a queen, and that heart beats for vengeance.
Yes. We love her. So, we are in the first section of the book. We are not finished with the book. However, I already love this one the most so far. So, as of right now, I'm at a 5-star. That's for sure. Granted.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. I think it's really hard to say which one's my favorite. I would say that if I had to pick a favorite, it's probably Empire of Storms, but it's like on the same level as Queen of Shadows. Queen of Shadows is just, it's so well written and so exciting the entire time.
Yeah.
Like Heir of Fire, we still gave 5 stars. It's a great book. But you cannot, like, compared to this, Heir of Fire is not as good. It has, like, a slower beginning section. This just nails it the entire time the book is happening.
This is, like, for ACOTAR, this is, like, book 3. Like, there's just a lot packed in of action and things that are happening versus like storytelling. I would say Heir of Fire would be equivalent to book 2 because there's like a lot of background that gets added in book 2 of ACOTAR. I would say this is
a lot more books
closer to your book 3 where like shit actually starts happening. Like she has arrived back and she's ready to fucking go and take her shit back.
Yeah.
It's so
That's
good.
why I like the first line of the description on the back that is like, she has embraced her identity as Aelin Galathynius. And I'm like, yeah, she has. Let's go.
And in our notes,
she's coming back.
I have a list of characters, and I have deleted Celaena Sardothien, and it is now Aelin Galathynius Ash River.
Just Aelin.
Because she is just Aelin now. Yeah.
It's Aelin Ash River Galathynius.
Oh.
That's fine. You can swap it.
It's fine. Whatever. It's not a big deal. Those last names are together. I thought it was Ash River last.
Galathynius. No. I can check.
I thought they added in... I think her actual name is Aelin Galathynius, and then when they've been referring to her, they've been adding Ash River because she has that bloodline, not because it's her last name. Where is that? That's in the last book.
This is like, it's one of the last lines of Crown of Midnight. Celaena Sardothien was Aelin Ash River Galathynius.
Okay. There you go. I've changed it.
So, this book is thick, guys, okay? And our last 2 episodes were 4 hours long each, and I'm not going to apologize for it because they're great episodes, but we would rather the episodes be a little bit shorter and more consumable for you guys. So, we have broken up this book a little bit more. Today, we're just going to be talking about chapters 1 through 25. And then the next episode, since we've only read up to the end of part 1 in Queen of Shadows, will be that second part of 25 to 46, I think?
47.
47.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that will be part 2. And then... Actually, we'll just say that'll be part 2. Because I don't know what the other ones are going to get split up into yet.
Yeah, we haven't read, or I haven't read the second part of the book yet.
I'm assuming that'll also get split up into maybe 2.
Potentially, yeah. Because it's... It would be 390 until... Those are acknowledged 600 something. So, like, that could be
That could be 2
6:40. Yeah, 6:45. Yeah,
I don't know. We'll see.
it just depends.
We're going
I
with
haven't
the
read
flow.
it yet.
At this point, the schedule is just once we record the episodes, we figure out what the schedule is because we don't know how many books it's or
You
how
will
many
get an
episodes it's gonna
episode
be.
at least every other week.
At the minimum, but right now more consistently every week.
Yeah, for
Because
this
we're recording
series,
a
it
lot
seems
more.
to be every week because
Yeah,
we're doing a
and
lot more.
you know, I haven't heard anybody complain about the more episodes yet.
Yeah.
So
If you have any critiques, if you want to see anything from us, like if you want to see episodes being kind of broken up more, so like there are some people who when they go into fantasy books, they do like chapters 1 through 10 and then chapters 11 through 20 and they break it up like in smaller segments of chapters. If that's something that you want to see instead of the way we're doing it, we can do it that way as well for some of these fantasy books. For the contemporary romance, when we go back to contemporary romance, I don't think that's necessary just because they're not
they're probably
as
gonna be
thick.
one and done.
Yeah, they'll be a one and done.
Unless
and like
when we start doing, if we start doing like series stuff, like maybe, but it's a lot of the contemporary.
They're one-offs.
A lot of the contemporary books are just one-offs.
Yeah. But fantasy, there's so much going on and there's so many things that set up the next sections that like it feels bad leaving stuff out when we talk about it. Because there's so much
you and I have talked about what are we going to do when Onyx Storm comes out? Because we're going to want to talk about that too.
Yeah.
We loved Fourth Wing. I really liked Iron Flame, even though there's, there's problems with it. We can all agree that, but I loved it. I enjoyed the shit out of it. It's still got 5 stars.
Mm-hmm.
Sue me. If we do an Onyx Storm episode, that's just gonna have to be like, this is what we thought about it.
It's gonna be... You're
gonna have to have already read it going in, because that's gonna be a lot.
Yeah, we're gonna eat that shit up.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not gonna be able to stop reading it to be able to be like, I'm having a hard time. I finished all of
I
part
told
one
my boss. I already told my boss I'm taking days off for Onyx Storm.
I finished part 1. I was up until 4:00 in the morning last night because I finished it at 1:45. And I couldn't fall asleep because I wanted to know what happens. And so I just laid there, tossing and turning of like, please go to sleep. Please go to sleep. Please go to sleep.
It is the worst part about trying to read right before you go to bed. Because there's no good way to know, am I going to be able to sleep or am I just going to be up until 4:00 in the morning because I don't stop reading? Mm-hmm. I can't remember what I just read recently, but I could not put it. Oh, it was Lights Out by Nevessa Allen, which was, oh my God, dark romance. Read the trigger warnings. Please read the trigger warnings before you. But oh my God, oh my God, I could not put it down.
So good.
I think I was up until 3:00 in the morning, and then I literally was like, I have to put it down. I have work in the morning. It was like a Tuesday. Like, it was so bad. But yeah, that's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I finished Empire of Storms, I was up until, I think that one was like 4 a.m. And Steven came in multiple times and was like, are you good? Like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I can't stop. I have to finish it. So.
Yeah. I knew I was going to finish at like 1:00 in the morning, 1:30, which is exactly what I did. Like, I set myself up for that, but didn't realize that I was going to want to keep going into part 2, which I couldn't start because we had to do this. And I don't want to cross my information up.
That's true.
I would mess it up.
At least part 1 didn't have a horrific cliffhanger.
No, it ended pretty smoothly. I just I wanted more.
I know.
There's so many things that are set up that don't get resolved in part 1.
That's true. So as soon as we finish recording these, though, you can go start reading.
Yes.
Okay. Let's get into your characters.
Yeah, so we have had pretty much an ever-growing list of characters. I cleaned up our list a bit today. There are a lot of people that don't show up in this book in part 1. There are also people who have who no longer exist or we don't really talk about. We haven't talked about in a while, so I've kind of removed them off the list. Like I said, Aelin is now Aelin. So Celaena is no longer a character on our list. And so we have Aelin. Chaol is obviously in this book. We have Dorian. Arabin is in this book. We have Prince Rowan, who I love dearly and I have the biggest crush on. We have Manon Blackbeak and Abraxos. And we have our Abraxos shirts on today.
We do! Thank you so much, our wonderful editor who sent us gifts.
Yes. The best Abraxos Garden Club. There we go.
Nope. There you go. Nailed it.
Heck yeah.
I love mine. It's extremely comfy, and I love this design so much.
It's so cute. We love it a lot. Thank you so much.
He got them for us on Etsy. So if you are looking for one, go find them on Etsy. Abraxos Garden Club. So cute.
They're so cute.
They're precious.
We have a new character that is introduced in this book, and that's Nesrin.
Mm-hmm.
Nesrin is a rebel. You meet her like pretty much in chapter 1. She doesn't have a name yet, but she is hanging out with Chaol. So it's kind of a little bit that you'll get there. We obviously have Duke Harrington and Caltaine. We get a little bit more of Caltaine in this book than we have in a little bit. You'll see kind of where she has ended up. The King of Otterlin. We have Adian Ashriver, her cousin. And then I still have Brannon, Emrys, Malachi, Lucas on our list just because they're brought up in the episode, but they're not like characters that show up and like have conversations with people. They're just kind of like brought up. Yeah, that's the character list I have for this one, which I'm sure it will grow by the next one, or people will show up a little bit more, maybe. Unsure.
Yeah, I would say it's a shorter list. Like this first part is very centered around like Aelin coming back and then like just having to get everything done that she needs to get done.
Yeah.
And Rowan doesn't come with her, so he's like not even in these first sections, even though he's referenced a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, she talks about him, or like her internal dialogue.
She talks about him a lot.
We love Rowan.
Rowan's great.
So, like she said, going into Queen of Shadows, Aelin is headed back to Rifthold. Like that's where we ended in Heir of Fire. She has gotten on a boat and she's headed back, and she's headed back as Celaena. She is going to be posing as the King's champion still. They obviously know Aelin exists, but they don't necessarily know it's her. I still have a feeling that the King has always known it was her and just kind of has been hiding
the King of Otterlin.
Yeah, I feel like the King of Otterlin has always known that Celaena is Aelin, but just was kind of, I don't know what game he was playing. He was playing some game that he is always playing. So I just assume he is known and is going to come back later at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah. So we start off also the end of Heir of Fire.
Heir of Fire. Yeah.
Dorian gets a brand new choker, which we love.
Terrible. I hate that
stylish.
So much. No.
And
worst
so,
choker on the planet.
Yeah,
they
the
should
worst
die
choker.
and stay in the 90s, please no.
Yeah. Like our first chapter, like we're first brought into Dorian's inner dialogue, and it is so sad.
So sad.
You get how he is trying and losing against this darkness that is trying to take over him. He keeps replaying Sorsha's death over and over again, but he can't identify who she is. So he's lost kind of the names of people. He's lost kind of his identity at this point. He doesn't know that the king is his father. He refers to it like the man on the glass throne. He refers to the woman getting her head cut off, and then someone that he thinks is his friend like being there. But he doesn't realize that it's Sorsha, he doesn't realize that it's Chaol, and he doesn't realize that it's his father, the king of Adarlan. He just like knows that those people exist in the scenario that's playing over and over. He also feels sad for this woman, but he doesn't know why. That's like another thing that is part of his inner dialogue, is like he feels sadness, but he can't figure out who this woman was to him at this point. So he's really like losing his identity. And part of kind of one of the things that stood out to me about how him being taken over by this like demon darkness works is there's this wall, and he references it throughout the book of like punctures happening to this wall that he keeps trying to mend. Yeah. And so it's really this like visual of him trying to fight against this demon who's like taking over his body.
Yeah. It's like the first insight that you get into like actually what is happening within like that person's head. Because we got kind of sort of snippets before, but not really like anything detailed. So it's just heartbreaking because like all of us are in full panic of like, can he be saved?
Yeah.
Can he come back? And then to get immediately Sarah in a dialogue of, oh yeah, he's just slowly like losing himself as an entire person and his whole identity. I'm like, no, this is bad.
You get little bits because Aelin obviously beat Narok, and with that, there was a little bit where she said she glimpsed a man who was like thanking her practically in his eyes of like, oh, there's still a man in there outside of this demon that I'm fighting. Like there's still someone inside. And he was grateful for her to like end his life because he no longer wanted to be like inside with this demon. So you're now getting that kind of how that plays out, which is terrifying because we don't want Dorian to get to this point of like, please kill me. We want to save Dorian. We love Dorian.
Poor Dorian. Rough start to the book.
Yeah. It's all, first chapter is just like, okay, well, here we go, I guess.
She doesn't leave you in suspense. She's just like, yep, it's shit. There you go. Yeah. And then like we immediately move on to Aelin.
Yeah.
Aelin she is back in Rifthold, and the first thing that she decides to do is go to the vaults and look for Arobynn, who is her old master and the king of the assassins. This specifically, like this whole first section is one of the reasons why I think that reading Assassin's Blade when you do is wildly important, and just like it plays better because there's so much that happens in Assassin's Blade that gets referenced in this first section of this book that, you know, you can read it as the first book rather than reading Throne of Glass first. And I think that you'll still get everything when it comes back around, but it's so fresh having read Assassin's Blade that everything just like you jump back into. She's going back to find Arobynn first, and she's got, you know, everything with Sam. They also mentioned it's only been 2 years since Sam died.
Yeah.
Which is, I didn't remember it being that soon.
Yeah, in like, Assassin's Blade,
it feels like longer.
16.
But it's only been 2 years since he died.
Yeah, in Assassin's Blade, she's 16, and then in Crown of Midnight, she turns 18.
Did she turn 18 in Crown of Midnight or 17?
I was fairly certain she turned 18 in Crown of Midnight.
I don't know. Because Heir of Fire takes place over like 8
because they talked about in
like
Throne of Glass her being 17, and then there was like mention of her birthday, but like it wasn't, she didn't celebrate it. She like it was like mentioned in her like inner dialogue of her turning 18. But I don't recall exactly kind of where that overlapped. But my thought is that she's 18 in Queen of Shadows.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's been 2 years, like, since she's been back to any of these places, and, like, the vaults was where Sam would go fighting and stuff, so you get, like, it gives you more context that she does, like, Sarah does explain some of it, and, like, gives you the backstory if you didn't read Assassin's Blade recently, but I just think that it works so much better, especially if you have trouble remembering things that happened from 3 books behind. Like, just read Assassin's Blade after Air of Fire.
Yeah. I think it's set up really well. So as the person who read them for the first time, I agree. Yeah. Like, I went into this and I was like, oh my god, I know exactly what's happening. I know exactly why she's here. Got it. Cool.
Context.
Perfect. Yeah.
The context is there.
Oh, yeah.
So she arrives and she finds Arabin, and she's, like, sneaking, just kind of hanging out, like, trying to survey the situation, and he's meeting with someone, and it turns out to be Kale. And she is displeased. Mm-hmm. She's not really sure what he's there for. Like, she does hear part of their conversation, and it's kind of clear that Kale is there to get his assistance with something, and Arabin is, like, they're kind of, like, setting the terms. And Kale kind of just, like, walks away frustrated, and Celaena hides from him so that he doesn't notice that, like, she's back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like the way with Dorian, like, Sarah just sets everything up to be like, okay, Dorian's screwed, Kale's working with Arabin now, and Arabin is still, like, in charge of everything. And you're just like, fuck. God damn.
Of course.
No. Everything's terrible.
Like, and this is the first, so this is you're getting, she's been spending months away, so she doesn't really know what happened while she was gone too. So she's like,
which is one of the other reasons why she's just like surveying.
Yeah. What is Kale getting into?
She's trying to get an idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Kale leaves with a woman who you do later find out is Nesrin, mm-hmm. and is kind of that person that he's been close to since she's been gone. It's like the main person that he's been interacting with when it comes to, like, working with the rebels. But Aelin is still kind of in the dark and doesn't really know what Kale's been doing, and especially why he's here.
Yeah, so Celaena pretty much watches Kale leave with this woman and doesn't know who she is, doesn't recognize her at all, but right now she is on a mission, and it is to talk to Arabin. And she knows that he's kind of sitting in the back corner of the club, and she's like, I'm going to go over here. And so she just kind of, like, weasels her way in. And I don't know if he knew she was there the whole time. I don't really remember, but either way, he makes it seem as if he knew the whole time. And so
even if he didn't know, he would he's the kind of person that would pretend, oh, I knew you've been here this whole time. It's so nice you're back.
Yeah. So she pretty much slides into the bench, like, across from him, and is like, hello, Arabin. It's nice to see you. And he, of course, is his typical, hello, darling. Like, you seem to be holding up well. There is a feel in this one that, like, gives you the first sign of all of this being because Arabin has been jealous that she was with Sam and jealous about all this stuff. So he's had this, like, very much raising this person that, what is it? Grooming? He,
yeah, there you go.
Very much was grooming Celaena. And it really comes out to me in this scene of them together because he has just been manipulating her, and it really shows here. He also makes a comment of, I wouldn't want you to wind up back in Endovier. And it's just like, you're the reason she was fucking there in the first place.
Yeah. Like,
But
that's pretty much is 100% like confirmed really in the end of the Assassin's Blade. It's
yeah.
not so much confirmed at the end of Assassin's Blade that he purposefully sent her to Endovir, but it is confirmed that he chooses not to save her.
Yeah.
And not to get her out at the end of Assassin's Blade. And the other thing that I liked in Assassin's Blade that I think does set this up really well is the multiple times in the book it's like, is it that he's a father figure or that he's like trying to be a lover?
Mm-hmm.
And you still don't, like, it's still very unclear at the end of Assassin's Blade, like, which side you're on. Like, right off the bat, she's immediately starting to leave the breadcrumbs of lover, grooming, scared, gross.
Yep.
Like, he does not see himself as a father figure type. I think up until I want to say it's probably because it's been 2 years. Like, she's 18 now. Everything's fine. Like, he just kind of he almost drops that side of the facade. He doesn't spend nearly as much time being like trying to pretend into being a father figure.
Pretty much during this whole meeting, you get this feeling.
He's begging her for his forgiveness, her forgiveness of him, like the whole time.
He's pretty much offering like favors. I'll do all these things for you. I'll get you these gifts. Obviously,
which is exactly what he did last time.
Yeah, and it worked.
Yeah, it sort of worked. It worked up into a point. She didn't like hate him. Yeah, but I think it prevented her from hating him. And then she got to a point where like the stuff that he was doing with the slave trade and like was like, you're not redeemable as a person. It's like she was done and ready to leave. Mm-hmm. And then Sam died.
In this part, this is also when Arobynn asks. So he offers all of his like resources to her, offers kind of everything in her like quest for dealing with the King of Adarlan, because he like obviously knows that's why she's here.
Yeah.
Because he knows who she is. He knows that she's Aelin and knows that she pretty much started a war by doing what she did in Gwendolyn. Yeah. And so he's offering all of his resources to her. But he wants one of those men. One of those creatures who wears the body of men. That's how he describes it. Because at this point, he doesn't know that it's a Vogue. Like, he doesn't really know much about them. He just knows that they exist. So he's like,
she does
I'll give
share
you all
information.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, I want to help you, asterisk, as long as I get something out of it.
Mm-hmm. Typical Arobynn fashion.
Yeah. They do trade information in terms of like he's asking for one of them and she kind of gives him information about what they are. The fact that they're like not men anymore. Mm-hmm. And she kind of shares the information about the rings as well. So like tells him that those rings are what gives the king control. And shares how she killed them, that she had killed them with fire.
Yeah, and a correction to what I said, her first goal is obviously to get her cousin out. He's still imprisoned. We didn't actually touch on Aedion still being in prison. But
yeah, so it is referenced in this conversation that Aedion is still in prison, mm-hmm. and that one of the reasons that she's going to Arobynn is because she knows that Arobynn is probably her best chance to get into the castle.
Oh yeah.
No matter what Chaol's been doing, he would not have been able to like amass the network or the resources or the money to be able to like pull off something
else. The entire town of Rifthold.
So she basically goes to Arobynn as a source of information, as the person that she needs to confront just in general anyways, and to like figure out how she's going to be able to go and like rescue Aedion.
Yeah. She has to play the part of Celaena too.
Yeah.
Which is using Arobynn and being this kind of like different character than she is. Then we learn her to be as Aelin.
So like she agrees to work with him But she basically, like, he's still begging her for, like, forgiveness and, like, tell me what I can do. And she, like, goes to say there's nothing, and he's like, no, wait, don't say it. Like, maybe I can do something.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, whatever. Like, she basically just, like, leaves and is like, I'll let him believe what he wants to believe, because it'll keep him to keep working with me, but there is no scenario in which that's happening.
Yeah, she is not going to forgive him for what happened to Sam.
No.
Like, I feel like in this point, he's asking for forgiveness for what happened to Sam. Not just, like, because she ended up in Endovier. Because he's like, if she can forgive me for what happened to Sam, clearly she didn't love him enough, and, like, clearly she'll love me more.
Gross.
Gross.
Yuck. So we flip really quickly to check in on Adian. It's not great. It's
He's not doing
bad.
well.
He is literally dying from an infection and is keeping it from everyone.
Yeah.
Keeping it from the guards and the people that check in on him, because he's hoping that he'll die, and then Aelin will be safe, because if he's dead, she won't come and save him.
Yep.
He does get found out, and they immediately start, like, healing him and making sure that he can't die.
Yeah, and he gets found out by Dorian, sort of. So,
sort of.
In this, Dorian goes down to the dungeons. And he's still kind of fighting that inner, like, demon situation. Mm-hmm. And Dorian, it's like Dorian's talking to him, but also not. So, like, Adian, like, calls him Dorian over and over, and, like, there's this, like, inner dialogue of Dorian, like, wait, who is that? Dorian. Who's Dorian? And then he says, like, I saw Sorsha, like, I know you love her. And, like,
it kind of, like, talking to him to try to get things to click in his brain. Because Adian knows that the thing that's talking to him is the Vogue Prince and not Dorian. Like, he can tell just from him. The
voice is slightly different, and, like, he's very, like, glazed
and they'd
over.
had conversations already up until this point for the group of them of, like, what the rings do. So he knows that, like, something is very wrong, and it's just.
And he's been around the rings because the king had one made for him. He just he didn't wear it.
He tries his best to try to get, like, Dorian out, to, like, come out of whatever, I don't know, barrier this Vogue Prince has him trapped behind.
Yeah. And then, of course, as
it, like, kind of works.
Yeah. You get his inner dialogue where he's, like, he's recognizing this guy. He's like, why does this person know me? Is this my friend? Is this someone that I know? Why is he imprisoned? Like,
he recognizes that he feels sadness, but can't, like, pinpoint why, or like, what about hearing Sorsha, like, hearing that name makes him feel sad, but he can't connect the pieces together of, like, why that is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So he's in there, and Adian is trying to bet his best to, like, connect him to that part of himself and, like, come back. But the Vogue Prince just, like, does not.
Yeah.
He, like, leaves before. Yeah. Before, like, anything could be. Before you could get brought out. And you also, like, get enough of an idea from the conversation, too, that it's not working. Like, it's not working enough that it's
not working where you're, like, satisfied.
Yeah.
With it. You're like, no, Dorian, please hang on. Because even in that, like, there's that idea of, like, he's still pushing through this barrier, like, this demon still, and I'm still just mending these, like, holes that this demon is, like, pushing through. And so, yeah. With that, Dorian/demon walks out, and you hear him say, he has an infection and a wound on his side, like, you need to go, like, get a healer.
Yeah.
And that's when Adian is like, fuck. How did he know?
No, I'm gonna live.
He's like, damn it, I will.
And all of us are like, yeah, he's gonna live.
Yeah, he's like,
hooray!
But, and then we're back to Aelin.
Yeah.
And she has created a nice little diversion of herself. So she planted all these things at the docks to kind of get these fog guards to show up at the vaults. And so as she's leaving the vaults with Arabin, she's like, tee-hee. Oh no, there's 20 men that are coming towards...
My god, how did they get here? That's crazy.
How'd they know that I was going to be right here? So she, of course, gets chased by 20 men. I think some of them go into the vaults. Pretty much end of the story. Like, long story short about the vaults is it ends up getting destroyed because of this action that she has created. Like, this diversion she's created.
She purposefully brought all of them there to get the vaults shut down. One, because obviously, like, it was run by Rourke Farron. She kills one of Farron's, like, henchmen, basically. Like, the guy who got put in place to run the vaults for Farron. And then basically just leads all of the guards to be able to find this spot so that it gets shut down.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make Arabin very happy because it's a big source of income for him, but he deserves it, so we're pleased.
Yeah. Her escape route is she uses the sewers as part of it. This is another point where we tie back to Assassin's Blade because she mentions that she has flashbacks the second she enters the sewers because of the scent. And as we learned in Assassin's Blade, she was trapped in the sewer. She gets out, but she was trapped in the sewer. So she has this like flashback of potentially drowning in the sewer or just the smell of the sewer, which is not ideal. Once she gets in there, like gets into the sewer, that female guard that she saw at the vaults was there. So we get another sighting of Nesrin. Still don't know her name at this point, but Nesrin follows her. And Aylin's a little impressed at this point. She's like, huh, I don't know you. I would kind of like to know you. You're like me. Like, you're good at this. Because you snuck up on me, which is not a thing that happens. Aylin obviously, like, notices her at a point and then, like, pretty much puts a knife to her throat and she's like, tell me why you're here and why you're following me. And she's like, hey, I'm just gonna... She kind of, like, backs up a little and she goes, I'm gonna go this way. I wouldn't go that way because it's bad. I've been in the sewers for a long time. So, like...
Don't go that
just
way.
Follow me. So then, Aylin follows her, which is kind of nice. And you find out that Nesrin is taking her to the captain. Because we learn here that the sewers is how they've been rescuing people from the King of Adarlan and his, like, Volg commanders that are kind of, like, just taking rebels and taking random people who potentially have magic. Like, we learn this is how they're kind of, like, ushering them around and getting them to the docks and, like, getting them to escape Rifthold. So.
Yeah, he's been working with the rebels since he left. Basically since the Daadian's been captured, which is great.
One good thing.
Not so great. Fucking Kale's a piece of shit.
Yeah. So,
okay, here we are.
You all have followed us watching this and being a part of this, and her knowing information that I don't know, and so you've watched me being like, "Oh, Kale's not the worst. Kale's not terrible."
This information, this one.
So I would say after this book, the first part, I would say after the first, like, 7 chapters, fuck Kale. Like,
Yay!
Come on, dude. Come on. That's all I can say right now. There are going to be a lot more fuck Kales going throughout this, just so you all are aware.
But now it's going to be both of us saying fuck Kale, and not just me the whole time saying fuck Kale. I was very happy when you got to the point. You, like, I think we were in Discord or something, and you were like, I'm there. I've made it. I've arrived.
Yeah, I've gotten here.
The headspace of, okay, fuck Kale.
I would say up until this point, he was annoying, but fine. Like, he did
Yes.
stupid shit. Okay. He was making decisions for other people. I still didn't understand the fuck Kale. In this book, he is a completely different person. I would say,
Yeah.
unlike Cassian, where in Silver Flame, I start to like him more.
Yes.
Queen of Shadows, I start to like Kale less. So,
Yeah.
like, I get the multiple
I
books
feel
of
like
annoying. Cassian
Kale does
goes up.
like start
Annoying, go down.
and,
he just like
tapers off a little bit and then just poof.
Yeah, this one he's
that.
plummeting.
So, here's the deal. He says some fucking heinous shit to her. And some of it in the beginning, only for probably the one chapter, that first chapter, I give him a full pass. Because the things that he gets angry with her about, I think are valid for him to be initially frustrated with. But then she can explain them and then get over it, and he doesn't fucking get over it.
Yeah.
He just hammers the shit home all the time. He's frustrated with her because she left. He
sent her
was not,
away.
which is what he sent her away to do. So, like, what the fuck?
He's mad she left when he was the one that sent her away.
Yeah,
That's
so
fine.
that's the first one, which doesn't make any sense. And then he's, like, mad that she did all of this shit in Wendland and then, like, didn't come back immediately to, like, help. And he's like, I was
send
here.
them a warning? And she's like,
I don't.
Across the ocean? Like,
the warning is the only one that I'm like, yeah, she probably could have tried to do that. But, like, she also had no information about what was going on in the glass castle. She had no idea.
She also didn't know that they knew what happened until, like, she was on her way back and heard, like, rumblings of Aelin Galathinius is still alive. And she's like, fuck.
It's so frustrating.
Fuck,
he
they might
blames
know
her
it's
for
me.
so much shit that is completely out of her control and would never, like, it's not her fault.
Yeah.
It's not on. But he knows her well enough to poke every single button that she knows will hurt.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, though, he also does, to his very minor credit, anytime Nezrin or someone else in the Rebel questions her, he's like, no, she's telling the truth. Like, yeah, I hate her. Like, he has this, like, hatred towards her. He's like, yeah, but she knows what she's doing. Like,
and then, but at the same time, in his own internal dialogue, he calls her a liar on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what the fuck is it?
But anytime someone questions
is she a liar?
He, like, is on her side, and then you're like, and then, like, the two of them are talking, and they're fighting, and they are, like, hate each other, and then anyone else brings it up, like, specifically Nezrin. Nezrin asks and calls him on his shit all the time, and asks him about it, and he's like, well, I have no reason not to believe her, but I also, like, don't have a reason for this, and I don't have a reason for that, and you're like, yeah, Kale, you dumb fuck. Of course you don't have a reason, because this is all your fault. It's all your fault, Kale.
The bit, so they have this fight. They share a lot of information. One of the bits that gets shared that he is the reason that he's so pissed that, like, she didn't send word back is the stuff around the collars and the rings, and the information about Narok being trapped and basically, like, not being able to save him. This leads to the one thing that I think Chaol gets a pass from me. He does not trust her to not kill Dorian if she has the chance. Mm-hmm. Which I think is such a... God, just the way that Sarah sets it up for the one redeeming quality to me for Chaol is the fact that he will not give up on Dorian. And I think that that's one of the things that, to me, is the first, like, queenly decision that Celaena has to figure out if she can make. Which is, at the end of the day, she does think that it is a mercy to kill Dorian, which I don't think is even, like, she's not wrong. He is miserable, and he says in his internal dialogues too that we get to read that Dorian wants to die as well, and they have no way of knowing at all whether he can even be saved.
Yeah.
There's
Based
no
off of
evidence to
what
support
they
it.
know so far about the Valk princes, and anytime a collar is involved,
Yep.
we get bits and pieces with the ring scenario, but it's pretty much like once you have a collar on, you're fucked.
Yep,
like,
you're done.
There is no like, until we decapitate you, that collar is on you. And so to decapitate you, you're gonna die. Like so at this point, there's either like, we cut off your head and then the necklace can come off. So then you're no longer have a Balk prince in you. But like, if we decapitate you, you die. So like, what are our options? I can burn you from the inside out. Also not a great option if you want to survive it. Like, nothing that they know so far, you can get rid of the collar without killing the person.
Yeah. It is the worst thing to have to, like, be in a position to make a decision about. And he, like, blames her for it completely.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I'm like, and we've gone too far. Like, it could have been fine. Like, you could have been a sane human being of, like, being frustrated and not trusting her and not wanting to give her information just because he doesn't want to risk Dorian's life, because it will. That's fair. But just, like, he piles everything on and, like, blames her for it. And I'm like, this
blames
is not...
literally everything.
Ugh.
The second he said, you went to Wenlin, I went, are you a fucking idiot? She did not want to go. Did you forget that you manipulated the whole situation to send her there because you thought she'd be safe there?
One other redeeming thing. Once again, Fleetfoot is safe.
Yeah.
Fleetfoot's safe with Nezarin's family, which is great.
Yeah, I didn't even put a note about Fleetfoot because the second I knew Fleetfoot was safe, I was like, okay, it's no longer a worry in my brain. I'm not writing it down.
I also didn't write it down.
Fleetfoot.
I just happened to open a page and just at the top of the page it says, I grabbed Fleetfoot. And I'm like, oh yeah, right. The Fleetfoot's fine, by the way.
Yeah. So he tells her in their like fight, because they're having this like argument where they have like kind of nice things they say to each other and then awful things and then nice things again. And then it's just a back and forth. But he says that Fleetfoot is living with Nezarin's family out like on a farm, like ranch, living her best life. And I'm just like, oh, she's probably running around and doing farm things. And I love it.
She seemed more than happy to torture the sheep. Yay!
I love it. So good. And you're like, okay, good. Fleetfoot is safe. That's all that matters.
So good.
Nothing else matters. Kale does also call her a monster for being Fae, which also I was like, bro, what? But fine, I guess. In this same section, she finally makes it back to her apartment. I think this is a very telling... We're getting more of Arabin, and this is a very telling part. Before Sam dies, part of that is they were planning on moving.
Mm-hmm.
And when Sam was out on his solo adventure that she wasn't allowed to go with him on, which I still think she should have gone with him, but it's fine. We wouldn't be where we are if she did. But
true.
She had to pack the apartment up. When she comes back to the apartment, all of her stuff is unpacked. And all of the clothes are in the like drawers and all of this other stuff. And you learn that Arabin is most likely the person to have unpacked all of that stuff. In this idea of like, no, you're not leaving. You are now stuck here.
She cannot bring herself to like check to see if Sam's clothes are in the closet still or if he'd like gotten rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
And she still doesn't know where Sam's buried either.
Yeah.
It's like, again, a read Assassin's Blade directly after Airfire, please, because it is like romantic order is the most accurate description you can get for like the way that you read this book and how it affects the story. It's very good. It's very smart.
I agree.
So yeah, she returns and everything's been unpacked, and now she's got to go and get this. She's got to find a Volg and trap it, I guess, or capture it and bring it to Arabin. Yeah.
It was in that moment, like when she gets to her apartment, that she decides, like, this has to end. And I'm going to use him as a resource. I'm going to manipulate him. He's manipulated me for so long. This is where she's like, she accepts his terms. Like, she goes to him, accepts his terms of, we will rescue Adian first, and then I'll deliver you a Vogue prince or commander or whatever the fuck.
Person. Thing.
A Vogue
demon?
Guy? Thing? Demon thing.
You can have a demon. I'll get you a demon.
Yeah. But yeah, it was like in the moments of her being in her apartment that kind of flipped a little bit.
The only other thing that I want to say about the Chaol and Celaena fight, just because, like, he does get a lot of hits into her, she does get some good hits into him, which was the thing that she said about, why didn't you get Dorian and Sorsha out the day the king butchered those slaves? Did you learn nothing from Nehemia's death? She come out swinging! Goddamn! I was like, yeah, Chaol, you fucking idiot! He thought about it too, and then he just didn't fucking do it. Whatever. Yeah. It was just, I could have so much more. I could have a whole fucking episode where we talk about Chaol's stupid decisions, but we don't have that kind of time, so we're moving on.
Chaol does let her know that Ren is alive, and in that moment she's like, another person from my kingdom, like from my court, is alive, and that he sent him away so that he would be safe. And so he's kind of laying low somewhere currently. So he does another, like, you're like, okay. So at this point, you're like, fuck Chaol, but you're also doing
he
like,
makes
kind
smart
of
decisions. He makes smart decisions. No, he makes smart decisions as long as they have nothing to do with Celaena.
I guess that's fair.
Truly. Like, if he has to make any decision that she's involved with, he's an idiot and makes the wrong decision. But anything that doesn't involve her, he's like, oh yeah, no, yeah, of course I did that. Of course I saved Fleetfoot. Of course I stashed Ren. Of course I, it's just his loved ones. Like, he makes terrible decisions with Dorian and Sorsha. He makes terrible decisions with Aelin.
Yeah. Dumb fuck.
He's, it's pain. It physically hurts me. We're not even done yet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, so from here, we talk about the witches.
Yeah.
This is our first peek at the witches in this book. They're at the mountain, and Duke Parrington is there. He is there with Caltaine, although Caltaine is not, like, mentioned by name, but she's described enough that you know it's Caltaine, and she is described with a dark collar on, which... At this point, we are full. We don't hate Caltaine anymore. Okay, we don't. She's fucked. She's just so screwed and is just used and manipulated, and it hurts me every time I read about her. It makes me sad.
Yeah.
Because she's just in the worst situation. She's covered in bruises and scars. It's...
Yeah.
No.
She has bruises all over her all the time, like... It's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's described as a beautiful raven hair woman who's never far from his side. And that's how the witches have kind of... They don't know who she is. Like, they kind of do. Manon is
they don't know her by
what's her name? Oh, yeah, it's Caltaine.
Yeah.
Like, she learns later, like, oh, yeah, that's right. That's her name.
They also don't really care about humans enough to learn their names. So...
Yeah. Pretty much the only thing you're getting from Manon in this is that there's this beautiful woman that's kind of always really close to him, but she always looks kind of like numb and disassociated, where you're like, she's under the control of whatever this fucking collar is. And she smells wrong. Awful smell. Covered in bruises. Anything that is word, keyword, whatever the fuck related, word, stone, word, everything is word something. Word necklace is always smells bad. There's a bad scent, and the witches smell it always.
He also makes a comment to her, "You will address me as your grace, wing leader."
This
she
scene,
says, "You're not my duke,
fuck.
nor are you my grace." And I'm like, good. Fuck him.
Fuck me up. I read that and was like, are you joking?
We do get a little bit of a hint that he is at least not a complete idiot and is in some way intimidated by them, because he does make a comment of like what is there to convince me that you guys aren't just gonna like take over what like our lands before he gets a chance. And she says, I have no use for human lands.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically is like, I thank God every day for that. 'Cause,
I apparently
he knows
highlighted
he's not
nothing in
dumb.
chapter 18. That's what I was struggling. I was going through my highlights and I was like, I'm just going from 7 to 9. 8, yeah, sorry. In chapter 8. And I just went from
you just highlighted
7 to 9. I highlighted nothing. I just wrote notes. I wrote,
well,
you will address me as your grace. Ha 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 ha. Okay, Parrington.
Yeah, I remember reading that and being like, someone's getting a little big for their britches there, buddy.
Yeah.
There's technically a king and then a prince and like 8 million other people in line for any sort of grace situation there, but all right.
Yeah.
Cool.
This is kind of, I think the reason I didn't highlight too much is because this is really like just our setup of the witches. You get also, outside of the notes of Caltaine and kind of Duke Parrington being Duke Parrington, it also talks about the 13 and how they kind of separate themselves from everybody.
Yeah.
And they claim it's because they're the 13, but it really is because Manon refuses to let them or their wyverns consume any food that is catered by the people in this, like, in Morath.
They hate the smell. They hate the food. Like, she knows, she can tell that something within that mountain, within, like, that area is tainted. And she's just like, nope, I'm keeping my group away from them as much as possible. So she's like, they're sleeping basically, like, in where
at, like, the very top tower. Yeah.
They're like,
so the wyverns were actually supposed to be, like, underground.
Possibly get.
And she was like, no, they need to be able to stretch their wings. We're going to take over this tower. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
And we're going to go live up there and we'll just sleep near them. It's fine. We'll feed them up there. It's easier for them to just, like, take off there because we're going to be flying a lot. And so, yeah, you get the fact that they're staying at the tower. You also get the note of Abraxo loving to watch the stars, that he like peeks his head out of one of the, like, openings and just watches the stars. And you're just like,
we're Team Abraxos, as you can tell. We love Abraxos so much.
We love him so much.
He's so cute.
So sweet.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of a power struggle going on within their ranks as well. Astrid is talking back a little bit more. She's getting Manon is nervous and very suspicious of what's going on. Astrid is, like, very uncomfortable.
She's like, do you not see what's happening?
Vocally, yeah, like, very frustrated with the fact that Manon's not doing anything. So that's kind of the first hint that you get at it, but it develops a lot through, like, these, like, all of these chapters of the book. And that section kind of wraps up with them going back out to go hunting because they are not eating any of the food in that tower.
Yeah. You also learn that not like when it was just Manon and Abraxos, they're not hunting, like, goats or sheep. They're hunting people. And so they go into the town, and there's also a mention of, like, there's an unspoken rule, no children. And like, that's kind of the only thing you get of, like, as they're leaving and heading towards this, like, these little villages. And or they talk about one of the buildings. Yeah, that's the 13. So they're hunting people. And
just no kids.
They have a little bit of a heart because they just won't touch kids, which is kind of nice, I guess, except for they won't have parents, but that's fine. We don't need to think about that. It's not a big deal, right?
Let's go back to talking about how cute and adorable Abraxos is. He's so great.
Yeah.
We love Abraxos.
We're still not fully, like, I would say I'm still not fully, like, I feel like Manon was making strides of, like, potentially going against everything that was happening, and she's still wary of it, but in this section I'm like, Manon, you fucking idiot, like, please work with Astrid. I really, like, just stop. I understand, like, stop being like your grandmother. Your grandmother is clearly a piece of shit.
Yep. She's too indoctrinated.
Yeah. But she still feels bad. Like, she still refers to, like, feeling the blood of the Kraken witch on her hand for the latest, like, kill that she had to do in front of everyone. Like, there's still all these little things where, like, Anon, give
I
in
think
to that already.
Astrid is, like, pushing her to get there, and Manon is not.
She's not ready.
She's not there yet in her character development.
Yeah.
But, like, I think Astrid is the one that is really doing her best right now to, like, get her to see how terrible everything is, and that her grandmother is maybe steering them not in the right direction. We pick up again. Part. Yeah, we pick up again with Aelin and Arobynn.
She gets the suit back. This isn't the part. She gets her suit back.
She does get the suit back, which is sick. Awesome.
Her suit with all the sword compartments and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, and it is mentioned too that, like, there have been improvements made to the suit, but she has not been told what the improvements are. So there's, like, a whole scene of her trying to, like, put the suit on, like, very carefully, because she doesn't know if there's anything, like, new or hidden that's gonna pop out.
And, like, stab her in the thigh or something. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was funny and also ridiculous. Because, like, why would that would hurt?
The very beginning is she has a woman that shows up at her door, pretty much. She's hooded. She has green up tilted eyes. And you go, huh, that's something I know. Why do I know that? Because it's Lysandra.
Lysandra!
Who, at this point, we don't like, but you're gonna like Lysandra.
We don't like Lysandra right now.
Yeah, Lysandra, we don't like her right now. But
Lysandra's great.
She's the best. This book really, like, makes you realize that, like, oh, they were kids fighting for the attention of a man who was grooming both of them.
Perfect. For a 180 on Lysandra. Yeah. Is great.
So she shows up, and she shows
initially
up with...
a little scared, though, because she shows up with a kid.
Yeah, you're like, did Lysandra have a kid? Like, with Arobynn? My brain immediately was like, she had a kid.
That's where your brain went?
Oh, God.
To be fair, it's been 2 years, and that child is much older than 2 years old.
Well, that's when I went, okay, it has not been long enough. But my immediate brain, because they...
Hold on, math.
They just said, she showed up with a kid. She didn't, like, say anything. Like, there was no, like, age yet. The fact that she could, like, walk on her own. It was just like, this is Evangeline. And then she talks back, and I'm like, okay, she's old enough. She's not Lysandra's child. Okay, cool.
Everything's fine.
But there was a brief moment of me reading that she brought a small child with her, and I was like,
yeah.
Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. I don't like this.
Would be pretty bad. Because
maybe now Arobynn is not terrible. I don't know. I was like, I don't know how to feel if this is going to be like she has a kid with someone. Maybe she has a kid with someone that's not Arobynn, and that's even more dangerous. But you also learn that Wesley, Arobynn's, like, head guard, and Lysandra had a relationship, which also made me a little scared. But
I love this, like, I don't know, twist or just, like, reveal of this whole chapter.
Yeah.
So Lysandra has basically comes to Aelin and brings Evangeline, because we find out that, like, Evangeline is basically been given to her as a servant. And Lysandra basically gives us a ton of important information and a ton of lore. She shows up at Aelin's to try to give her information that Wesley would have wanted her to have, and has, like, a letter from Wesley that he, like, wrote basically, like, before he died. And she reveals that her and Wesley were together, and that Wesley didn't agree with, like, all of the stuff that happened before she got sent to Endovier, and writes in these letters proof that Arobynn orchestrated all of it, and that Arobynn specifically dictated what, like, torture they wanted to have for, like, Sam. And she says all of this to Aelin, and Aelin doesn't believe her, or, like, Celaena, because at the time she's still Celaena to everybody else.
Yeah, to everyone ever told she's Celaena.
And she's like, she doesn't believe her initially because she's like, why would you tell me this stuff? Like, I have no reason to believe you. There is no evidence to support that you've suddenly become a good person and would betray Arabin in the last 2 years of your existence.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that gets her to maybe start believing her is after Lysandra leaves, Evangeline is the one that like tells Celaena that like she is actually a good person and that she's doing her best. Lysandra should have been able to buy her way out of her servitude like after her bidding night, because it was just an insane sum of money that she was bid for.
Yeah.
The only reason that she is still in Clarice's service is because she was given Evangeline basically to train as her protege. And rather than have this girl get put through what Lysandra was put through, she gave her the option to scar her face. And like she has these huge scars like down her cheeks or whatever, which would make her like not sellable basically, because she's not a pretty young girl anymore. So she does this and she fakes that like she did it because she knew that the girl would be competition later, and basically like saves this girl from being put into like being a prostitute pretty much. And because of that, Clarice makes her pay what she would have been worth had she been 18. She been 18 and been put up for bidding. So she is completely back where she started to like pay off this debt.
And it keeps becoming more because every other day
all the time like, she's like, oh, she's getting even prettier than I would have expected.
Have been prettier than you, so she would have made me more money than you did.
And it's like the first bit that, because Aelin still believes that, you know, this 100% could still just be Arabin using her to like get on her good side, or Arabin using her to get, you know, a spy in basically to talk and to influence her. But she wants to believe it like so badly that Lysandra is actually like this good person.
I think the thing that really helps though is that Lysandra's not the one that gives her this information. It's like Lysandra leaves and Evangeline kind of like says to Celaena that I said I would do anything, that I did not want to be a part of this, and she gave me an out. And she's been caring for me ever since. So, like, it really changes your perspective of, like, this whole scenario. Because up to this point, Lysandra has been kind of, like, they've been going head to head for Arabin's attention and, like, competing just because Arabin has been, as we learn, just, like, pretty much in love with Celaena. And Lysandra wants to be that. And she has like painted herself as this like beauty is the only thing that matters. Like I need to be the best. And so like she really has manipulated everyone around her to believe that this is what she wants, to like, so they don't really take her too seriously.
Yeah. She says if she herself could change so much in 2 years, perhaps so could Lysandra. And then she also thinks of Caltaine too, which I think is nice. She wondered how another young woman's life would have been different if she had stopped to talk to her, really talk to Caltaine Rompier instead of dismissing her as a vapid courtier. What would have happened if Nehemia had tried to see past Caltaine's mask too? They're just so young.
They are.
They're just too young to like make those like adult decisions or connections of like, oh, you know, maybe there's some other stuff that these people are going through that I don't know about that are making them act the way that they act.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Who would have known?
Chaol could take that feedback. He won't though. Or more specifically, he'll get given it and then ignore it, which is his favorite thing to do.
So, Kael and Nezrin are in a new location that we haven't really heard anything about, and it's called the Shadow Market. And it pretty much is an area that it's kind of like the black market, where
the
like
black market.
There's things that happen here that like
fantasy black market.
Yeah.
Shadow market.
There you go. He is trying to follow these Fall commanders that are kind of walking through areas, figuring out where they're going, things like that. And guess who is hailing them right behind? It is Aelin, because she is 7 steps ahead of them at all times, always. She
also just
one
so
of
sneaky.
The best, like, she's obviously so sassy. But there's a line, she walks up behind them, and they're kind of playing it cool at one of the little shops. They're like looking at knives or whatever the fuck. And she goes, 3 coppers for a Xandrian blade. If I'd known there was a sale happening, I would have brought more money. Every muscle in Kael's body locked up as he discovered Aelin now standing at Nezrin's side. Of course she'd track them here. Holy gods, Ress breathed. Ress, if you don't remember, is one of the guards that guarded her bedroom when she was the champion, like as the champion. And so this is the first time she's seeing him since being back as well, which is like months have gone by. And so Ress and Brullo are there. And so this is where you learn that Kael is working with some people on the inside still.
Yeah.
Like, these are
he
his
still has
trusted
connections inside the castle, which is great. I mean,
Mhm.
it's also understandable because Kael is not again, he treats everybody that's close to him like a piece of shit, and everybody else he's great. So she says, "Hello, Russ Brello. Sorry to see your palace jobs aren't paying you enough these days."
I loved, and we didn't really touch on this in Throne of Glass, but when she's in the castle, Ress is one of the people that she like goofs off with. It's like one of the guards that she like will say something and he'll have a snide remark back, and like you can tell that it was like playful. So the fact that like he's come back, we didn't touch on that as an aspect, but it is something that like I kind of held in the back of my brain of like, oh, I like him. Yeah. But we didn't really, he wasn't like a big character point in those books. I really enjoy that he has come back as like a more not main character, but he shows up a lot in this because he's obviously working on the inside of the castle. And I just really liked that she, of course, has this like playful banter with him again.
Ress is like the stereotypical guard that like jokes around with the prisoner, or like would joke around with the assassin that he has to guard, and then be like, "Oh, right, I'm supposed to be
like,
you're
oh, shit,
a prisoner.
I'm not supposed to be your friend."
Wait, I'm working. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
So yeah, they all are like, what the fuck? Where did you come from? And also, you're back? And Kael didn't tell us. Kael's like, you're drawing too much attention to us. Like, go away. Kael's being an asshole. Fun facts.
As usual. Yeah. I don't know. That little interaction I really enjoyed a lot. It was a nice little circle back to their relation. They're like, it's such a mild relationship that they have too. But it was like one of the many points in Throne of Glass where she noted like, and I smiled for the first time in a little bit. And I like noticed myself being happy for the first time in a little bit. And it's all like these little actions with like random characters. And Ress was like one of them. So I don't know.
Aelin tugged back her hood only far enough for the light to hit her face. She winked at Ress, who grinned. "I missed you, friend," she said. Color stained Ress's cheeks.
Love him.
So cute.
Yes. We love side character Ress.
Yeah. So this is where she basically tells them that she's going to go and rescue Adian. Brello kind of like figures it out. And she's like, yeah, of course I'm going to go rescue him. She is there to see if she can get information from them and see if she can get their help. And Kale is like, absolutely not. No, you're going to put them in more danger. It's not necessary. You figure out your own shit. Do not use my men. And she's like, they are human beings who can make their own decisions. It is not up to you whether they do or do not help me. You cannot make that decision.
She says something along the lines of, like, what are you, their master? Or, like, what, King Kale? Like, making all the decisions? And I was like, oh.
She says, that's not your call to make.
Yeah.
And, it's so good. Because, again, God, he just loves making decisions for people that he doesn't get to make decisions for. She doesn't really ask a lot of them either. She just says, don't be stationed in this place. And if you do get stationed in that area, tell your men to wear a red flower?
Yeah, a red flower.
Wear a red flower pinked to their uniform. And if anyone asks, it's to honor the prince for his birthday. But wear them where they can easily be seen. And this is basically her way of letting them know, like,
I'm going to be doing this
I don't want to accidentally kill any of you guys, but I am getting them out. And it's going to happen here, so don't get stationed there. And if you do, make sure that you're protected so that I know who not to hurt.
Yeah. I know they will turn away from me as I'm doing my thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was great. I like that she pretty much doesn't force them to be a part of it.
No,
like,
she
if
really
you would
doesn't
like to
ask
help
a
me,
lot.
you can. But I also do not want to harm anyone that... I don't want to harm anyone. Like, I just don't want to. And, like, this is my goal, is I'm going through the south gate. So please just don't be there. Like, maybe make it so that people are elsewhere.
This is where I will be.
If there's guys that you want me to kill, feel free to put them at the south
anyone
gate.
Specific that you have a grudge against, kick them over there.
Yeah, I'll be coming through that way. Don't worry.
She basically like goes home to kind of get ready and sleep. She wakes up like reaching over to the other side of the bed. Like Rowan's not there because she didn't bring him with him. Mm-hmm. Didn't bring him with her, so it was so sad. And she basically, like, she wakes up and has been summoned to the Assassin's Keep.
Immediately. Fuck you, Arabin.
Yeah.
So we're back with the witches. And Manon is summoned by the Duke. And Vernon. It was like Vernon that did the summoning, I think, or something like that. We don't like Vernon. He's a fucking snake.
Vernon is Elid's uncle.
Yes.
And Elid Locken is the daughter of Marion, who saved Aelin and bought her time to be able to get away the night that her parents died. So, again, another reason why you should read Assassin's Blade right after Heir of Fire. All fresh in your mind of like, we bring up Vernon, we bring up Elid, and you're like, great, I know exactly what's going on here. I know who this is. So Vernon and Vernon is there with Parrington in Morath. And they summon Manon to meet. And their request is terrifying. They want a Blackbeak coven to experiment on. And Manon's like, hey, fucking excuse me? What do you want?
Like, we don't work for you, Harrington. Thanks.
No. And
Astrid's also with her.
Yeah,
at this
Astrid's like, no, absolutely not. And he explains kind of what they want this coven for. They want to breed more Volg by using the witches as like the mothers to like birth them. And it's like they talked about it being a small procedure where they slip like a stone under their skin in
like
their abdomen,
under their just belly button or something.
Yuck. And then that somehow produces a baby, sure. But the witch, so there's a whole thing about witches and witchlings that you get from this. In their witch culture, witchlings are like very, very revered. Like it is one of their utmost, like, highest punishments, or like rules, that you cannot, like, hurt a mother and her witchling. Like, obviously they're all girls. They don't mention what happens to the boys, but they talk a lot about, like,
I just assumed there aren't boys. It's just witches.
Yeah.
It's just, they only have witches.
Sure. I don't assume that there aren't boys.
I
but
just
they're
didn't
witches.
think about
Maybe
it.
they're just.
That's all.
You didn't think about it.
It
Okay,
just wasn't a thought. I was.
They just only have daughters. I mean,
didn't think
it could
of
be
the
their witch
gender
magic.
of them. I was just like, oh, they're just having witches.
Well, because they specifically say, like, they're daughters at one point.
I didn't.
And I was, gotcha. I see. You didn't make
my
that
brain
connection.
was just
Cool.
like, witches. They're just having other witches. Like, perfect. The witches are having witches. Got it. Cool. Witches.
Yeah. My brain, I mean, it could be that they, part of their magic is that they can just be like, they're girls. We're only going to have girls. But my brain went, what do we do with the boys? What happens? So this is one of the reasons why Astrid is so against this. Witch children are very precious to them. And Astrid is like, what do you mean you're just going to give them a coven of witches? She also refuses to give them a Blackbeak clan. She says, you can have yellow legs. And
yeah,
Parrington
I think
is,
it
like,
was
pissed.
It comes back and the yellow legs kind of say, we want to do this. And she's like, all right, fine, fuck it.
Yeah. And the yellow legs, also the yellow legs are the ones that, like, volunteer for it.
Mm-hmm.
Weirdly. It could be like another power thing of, like, the yellow legs are below the Blackbeak since Manon has one wing leader, so, like, maybe it's part of their way to, like, get back into, like, a more powerful position if they're the ones to, like, have these witch Volg children.
I don't think they even fully understand. They're just like, oh yeah, we'll do the experimenting. It's fine.
Yeah.
And you're like, you sure? Do you know what that involves? Are you sure?
And at first, it's just to determine whether they are compatible with breeding the Volg.
Yeah.
And then a child born of Volg and witch bloodlines, you can understand what an investment that can be. You witches value your offspring so ardently. And it's one of the reasons why Astrid is so against it, is because they do value their offspring. And for Manon to be like, yeah, sure, use our witches in that way, is, like, the first time that Astrid is like, what the fuck are you doing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You learn from other... You don't learn it in this. So this is kind of a spoiler for ACOTAR a little bit, in the sense of, like, Fae in general. Fae hold up their children also. Like, they protect them kind of with everything, because it's so rare to have a child. So I also, as I was reading this, was getting this idea of that, like, it is very rare for them to have witchlings. So that's why they protect them so adamantly, because it's not like humans who could just, like, have babies whenever. It, like, takes a lot more and, like, doesn't always happen right away. And as we know from previous books, the witches are kind of a descendant of the Volg. The yellow legs are, like, the closest. The Blackbeaks are kind of second closest to Volg, and then Blue Bloods kind of have the least amount of Volg in them, I guess.
At least that's what they say.
That's how they describe the witches in, like, closeness to Volg.
Because they link it to, like, their beauty, so, like, because the Blue Bloods are the most beautiful or whatever, I think.
Yeah.
And then the Blackbeaks are, like, in the middle of, like, the most terrifying and still beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Because, like,
that
it's
perfect
Volg
killing
and
combination.
Fae. And so, if they're more beautiful, they lean towards their Fae heritage. If they're more scary, they lean towards their demon heritage. Which, yeah, let's have a, like, semi-demon have babies with a demon. That seems like a good idea. Yep.
Yeah. So, Astrid is, like, very, very, very much against this, probably for that specific reason, to the point that she pushes Manon too far, and she gets demoted because of it. So Astrid is like, you cannot let this happen, and Manon like lashes out at her and is like, you do not get to tell me what to do, and like scratches her across the chest and like tells her that she's being demoted and that she's going to replace her with Sorrel, who's currently her third.
Yeah. So pretty much she like bumps her down one and the other gets bumped up.
Yeah. And like basically tells her like, just get out of my sight. Like and she's going back to her rooms. She does go back to her rooms.
Yeah. When she goes back to her room, that's kind of where you're introduced, where a lead is introduced to Manon.
Yay.
Yeah, I think this is the first time
I think it's also when
met. She's been around and she's seen her, but they haven't really like met.
Because she's there as a servant.
Yeah. A lead gets assigned to clean Manon's room. And of course Manon is like, who the hell are you? Are you spying on me? Like, why are you here? She's like, oh, I'm just here to clean. Like, I'm cleaning out your fireplace. I'm cleaning out like your bed sheets. Like, I'm just being a servant, pretty much. And she asks about, she notices that a lead has chains on her ankles, which is kind of a big sign that her uncle is kind of maybe scared of her or intimidated by her, that she has to keep her like locked up in some way. And so Manon is like,
no, she's literally crippled.
Yes.
Like her one ankle is mangled and it's described as her foot twisted on its side. And Manon's first reaction is, why would they give me a cripple as a servant?
Yeah. You're like, oh. There's also like, they talk about her getting this injury, but not, I wasn't satisfied with it. Like, it didn't give me enough information. I think that Vernon gave her this injury in some way to cripple her, or she was like trying to escape from him and hurt herself and he didn't get it healed. And so you kind of learn that like she hurt herself and her uncle's healer said that we can't heal it fully. And you're like, maybe that's not true. Maybe they could have healed it fully, but your uncle wanted you to be incapacitated in some manner so that you could never actually take your crown back, because she is supposed to be a lady of her.
She's supposed to be Lady of Paranth.
Yes.
So what it's explained that she's a servant. She shouldn't be. She would have been next in line for like whatever, like,
because her father was
that her
Lord
family
and Lady
owned.
of Paranth.
Yeah. And Vernon, her uncle, basically stood by and watched while her family was killed, and then like basically like turned sides and got in the good graces of the King of Otterlin and took over as what should have been hers. Yeah. So her uncle basically just let her family die, and a lead basically was his bargaining chip. Like, he's been keeping her around and keeping her alive, but as a servant to be used later for whatever he needed.
Yeah.
Because she is still technically a lady and is of good breeding, so he could,
and she's of Fae
marry her
descent.
I don't
because
remember.
I thought her uncle was also of Fae descent. I don't
think she's Fae.
Dad and the uncle have some kind of magic. And then
remember.
I know that they were royalty, and typically
they were part of her court.
Far,
so like a lead would be part of Aelin's court, but it was
I guess that doesn't necessarily mean that they have magic.
Yeah. Like Aedian's demi-Fae, so only one side of his family was Fae. Don't worry, there's more interesting shit about Elite anyways, than that she would be Fae or not.
Yeah. There's one, and then we learn about her mom at some point.
Yeah. basically they have a conversation, and as
Manon like
she scratches her.
Yeah,
she
and
tells
tastes
her to
blood.
leave. She tells a lead to leave and scratches her, and yeah, she tastes her blood, and she can taste that it's witch blood. And she like leaves her face blank. She like kind of tries to see if a lead knows, and it doesn't seem like she does. And like this is when we realize that a lead has some sort of witch blood in her, which is sick. And she, like, Manon is trying to figure out whether Elide is a spy or whether she's just, like, a trapped girl.
Yeah. In her inner dialogue, she says, as Elide leaves, she says, but anyone with witch blood in their veins was worth keeping an eye on. Or 13. So Manon is going to have her 13 keep an eye on Elide. So we kind of get this idea of like, all right, from here, she's going to go dispatch her 13 and be like, hey, so this person that came up to my things to clean, she might be a spy. So let's keep an eye on her. But she also has witch blood. I think she tells Esterin and Sorrel. She tells her second and third about the witch blood situation, but doesn't maybe necessarily tell everyone in her 13.
Yeah, I can't remember who she tells. She doesn't tell for a while, though.
Yeah, I know it gets questioned, like, later of, like, hey, why are we looking at this girl?
Yeah. They're like, who's she? Why does it matter?
Yeah. She plays it as, like, she's a spy. Or potentially a spy for the Duke.
You wrote Abraxos Mrs. Asterin Sky Blue Female, but I genuinely don't even remember reading that part.
Pretty much the first time they went to go fly, they, like, were kind of snarling at each other. And was kind of like, there has to be a new dynamic happening between the wyverns, because they got so used to
each other
being next to each other, and so the wyverns were kind of like snarling at each other. And that's when Sorrel also kind of questions, like, are we actually gonna let them test on Blackbeaks? And she's like, I don't know, I haven't decided yet. And she's like, okay, you are the leader, I guess. You are the wing leader. Yeah. And she's just kind of like, I don't agree with it, but like, I'm also not going to push against you because you're my wing leader. But like, you know, that's
going to get demoted.
Sorrel's also not into the idea of this. Yeah. Astrid is just the one that is talking out, but Astrid's also her cousin, I believe. Like, they're related past just Blackbeak status. I think so. Yeah. I don't remember why I said, did you write that?
Write what?
Erebin is fucking gross. I think
I wrote that, yes.
I was like, I don't remember writing that. I don't recall those words.
You fill it out better than you did at 17.
Oh. Yep. I forgot. Oh yeah, they're talking about the uniform. Not you.
Okay, so...
Wait, I guess she was 17 then during Assassin's Blade. I think she was 16. She had a birthday during Assassin's Blade?
So then she's 19?
She's 19 in this one.
That's what I was about. I was trying to remember because I was like, I don't think... I remember them talking about her turning 18 in Crown of Midnight. And I'm like, but then Heir of Fire takes place over a long period of time. Yeah. So like, she's not still 18. And if she is, like, 19. Her birthday's got to be coming up soon or something.
Yeah. I think she's 19 in Queen of Shadows.
Yeah. All right. So... yes, I wrote that bit. So this next section takes place the day before Adian is set to be killed. And she goes to meet with Erebin, basically to, I don't know, like, check in and make sure that things are still going to go as planned. She's warned the guards that she doesn't want to kill because they're rebels, and now she basically goes and checks in with Erebin, and she goes in her stealthy suit or whatever that she got back, and yeah, gross. He's like, yeah.
He then...
It was a present. Stick with jewelry and clothes or useful things.
Yeah. Doesn't want comments like that. Thank you.
You fill it out better than you did at 17. Yeah, she said, and that was quite enough. She clicked her tongue and turned away. So this is where he really just like is kind of more mask off in terms of we're all thinking still, is it more of a fatherly way or in a lover way? It's lover way. Here it is. It's gross.
This is it. It's really evident here.
Yeah. He just makes a lot of comments about like he wants to know more about the prince.
Yeah, there's a lot of things.
But he's basically just gross the whole time.
Yeah. She says to him also, like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this verbal sparring. Like, I'm going to leave. And he holds her back and is like, hold on. Wait a minute. I'm going to give you useful information because you want to leave and I don't want you to leave. So, you're going to need to lie low, like, once your cousin shows up. Like, once you get your cousin back. One of my favorite lines, or not necessarily favorite lines, but it is one I highlighted that I really want to touch on. Should you decide not to fulfill your end of the bargain, you'll find out very quickly, Celaena darling, how deadly this city can be for those on the run, even fire-breathing bitch queens. And she responds back, no more declarations of love or offers to walk over coals for me? A sensual laugh. You were always my favorite dance partner. He came close enough to graze his lips against hers. If she should sway a fraction of an inch. If you want me to whisper sweet nothings into your ear, Majesty, I'll do just that. But you'll still get me what I need. Fuck. I do like the fire-breathing bitch queen, though. I love every time she's referred to as fire-breathing bitch queen.
She gets referred as fire-breathing bitch queen a lot, and it's often. Great every time. Yeah, I mean, he's just gross. He does, like, he tries to taunt her. Like, what are you going to do about the prince? What are you going to do about Chaol if you have to kill the prince? And she's like, stay out of my business. It's none of your business. And basically she like storms out of there because she's like, I'm not doing this. I came here to check with you to make sure that the deal was still on because I'm going to go get Adian tomorrow. And then I'm going to deal with getting you your Vogue dude. And then like she leaves. On her way home, she stops at the Royal Bank. And then she goes back to her apartment, and Lysandra is there. Mm-hmm. Lysandra had brought food. Lots of food.
We love Lysandra.
Yay! This is one of my favorite chapters in the whole book. Lysandra, like, brings over food. They talk. She had asked Lysandra to come over. And she says, I asked you to meet me today so we could talk about Arobynn, about you. When do we get to talk about you? What do you want to know? She basically is trying to get information out of her about like why she's doing this, because she does believe now that like whatever her agenda is, it's not something that Arobynn is getting her to do. Mm-hmm. So she's like trying to figure out what it is that Lysandra wants. And Lysandra says, Aelin said, the other night you didn't just come to warn me about Arobynn. When Lysandra raised her head, her eyes were frozen. No, she said, with soft savagery. I came to help you destroy him. Yes!
We love Lysandra.
I love Lysandra. She is so badass. She also, like, she did love Sam as well. Not in the same way that Aelin did, but Sam was one of her friends. And when Sam died, she was, like, devastated. And she knows also she's so sympathetic to Celaena because she knows her grief because of Wesley. And she knows that everything that she did in the vaults was for Sam. And she's like also kind of still trying to feel Celaena out, or Aelin, to see if she is doing this for Sam and it's not just like her own revenge.
Mm-hmm.
Which is so great. I came to help you destroy it. Yes.
This is also where they agree to be friends, which I thought was great, because the second Aelin agrees to be her friend, Lysandra heaved a sigh. Oh, thank the gods. Now I can talk to someone about clothes without being asked how so-and-so would approve of it, or gobble down a box of chocolates without someone telling me I'd better watch my figure. Tell me you like chocolates. You do, right? I remember stealing a box from your room once when you were out killing someone. They were delicious.
They're so cute. The way that they literally are like, oh yeah, we could be friends. Aelin apologizes for, like, she says for being, Aelin apologizes. She says, I'm sorry for the years I spent being a monster to you, for whatever part I played in your suffering. I wish I'd been able to see myself better. I wish I'd seen everything better. I'm sorry. Lysandra blinked. We were both young and stupid and should have seen each other as allies, but there's nothing to prevent us from seeing each other that way now. Lysandra gave her a grin that was more wolfish than refined. If you're in, I am in. Aelin said hoarsely, I'm in.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I think one of my favorite things about the two of them is the fact that they are ladies in the same way that, like, you and I are ladies.
Yeah.
Like, we are, sure, you could use that term when referring to us.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I'm 100% going to sit in my bed in a sweatshirt and that I have worn 3 days in a row, like my sweatpants, and eat chocolates and not give a shit.
Yep. This is the point where you also realize that Lysandra also has a plan, and she shares a little bit of herself, which is a bit of foreshadowing. She shares a little bit of herself with Aelin. She pretty much says, like, you think a hair color is gonna change, or is, like, gonna make it so that you're invisible to these people? No. You are going to have to put on a whole different character when you exist in the castle again, because there is no chance that no one is going to recognize you. So, yeah, I just put Lysandra has a plan. We don't know that plan yet, but she has a plan.
Yeah. Because now they're working together.
Mm-hmm.
It's so great.
Yeah. Very good. So, this is still the day before we go to rescue Aedion. So they're setting things up. There are a couple rebels that are, I think there are 3 rebels that are scheduled to be put to death. And Kael and Nezrin, their goal is to rescue them. And it's rescue them at their, like, not trial, but, like, at their beheading. Is like,
yeah, their execution.
Yeah. So they're kind of up on buildings adjacent to the area in which the execution is going to occur. And of course they get into a pissing match again, as they tend to do. Yep. And so
Poor Nezrin is trying to focus.
Yeah. Nezrin is trying to focus. She has her kind of bow ready to take out the guards who are gonna kill this person. And they're fighting, and she's like, I don't have a shot. Like, I don't have a line of sight. There's stuff covering it, and they're still arguing. And she's like, guys, I don't have a shot, and they're still arguing. And at this point, she, like, puts her bow down, and she's like, guys, like, we're here for a reason. Like, we have a thing to do right now here, and this conversation is not a part of it. Like, what are you doing? There is a line, though, where Aelin asks Nesrin, how good's your accuracy? And she says, I don't miss. Aelin's teeth gleamed. My kind of woman. Like, yes. We love this. This is kind of the point where I'm like, okay, Aelin is like team Nesrin. Aelin likes Nesrin so far. Or is starting to like her a little bit more and more, like every time.
Yeah. This is also when, so it's mentioned a little bit before that like Nesrin and Kale are more than friends. They have been together for a little while since like while Celaena's been gone. At
but
some
more
point,
of like a friends with benefits, not like
yeah,
an actual relationship.
They're friends with benefits for sure. Nesrin specifically doesn't really want any more than that.
No, she's like, no, thank you, I'm good.
And this is also when like Kale realizes like from this conversation that like Celaena knows and she doesn't really care.
Mm-hmm.
But he says he couldn't tell whether or not it was a relief. So like they have had some sort of relationship, but it's definitely more of a friends with benefits thing, and Celaena is like aware of it and knows that it's taken place, which is one of the other reasons why I think the My Kind of Woman is so funny. She gonna steal so your girl.
Pretty much.
So yeah, they're getting ready to, they're trying to rescue these people, and she can't get like a line of sight from where they are. And she was like, do we go down there and save them, or like figure out?
This is also
they're like have to figure something else out.
This is also a point where like Aelin's not necessarily supposed to be there. She just like showed up. And Kale's like, why exactly are you here again? And she's trying to get as much information before tomorrow as possible.
Yeah.
And so she wasn't necessarily supposed to be a part of this mission that Kale and Nesrin are participating in. And so he, of course, is being distracted heavily by her existence. Because he's like, why are you here? Like, go away. It's too public. Like, you shouldn't be here. You're going to, like, risk us being caught. That being said, though, she plays a very integral part in the rebels not dying in this scenario.
Yeah.
Because they don't have a line of sight. So Celaena's, and the crowd is getting rowdy. They don't save one of them. Pretty much one is decapitated on stage. And that's kind of when Aelin clicks into gear of like, all right, I'm going to go to that side. She just fucking books it to the other side of this, like, I don't know, pretty much they're in like a courtyard and there's buildings around. And so she books it to the other side on a different building. And before the guard has a chance to kill another, she kills the guards. And so does Nesrin. Like, she hits one with a dagger. Nesrin takes out another one. Kale runs up to the stage, grabs the two prisoners, and, like, runs away. And then, like, other rebels who are kind of interspersed throughout the crowd start pulling these people kind of to safety.
Yeah.
And get them into, like, the sewers and bring them to the docks or whatever, however they're transporting them out. In their conversations, though, on the roof...
Yeah, while this is happening, when that first prisoner gets executed, the, like, people there watching, like, cheer, and they had been, like, throwing food at the traitors, and Kale sees all of this and is like, maybe they do deserve for Celaena to just, like, burn it all down, and, like, just complete, like, they deserve Aelin Galathinius, and that they should all just, like, be killed, basically. Like, these people are not... He's struggling with whether these people are worth saving. And this is when he chooses to tell her about the towers. So he tells her, if you take out the clock tower, it might break whatever spell he has on magic. And they also kind of realize while having this conversation that the king doesn't really care about the people around him or his subjects. So, like,
Mhm.
he'll do what he wants to make sure that she gets captured. So
Yeah.
they talk about that he's probably laying traps, that there are probably word marks that they will, like, spell, like, in the castle to trap her if she comes.
So similar to her capturing
Yeah.
the, like,
And
monster that came up, she, like, trapped it at a door frame, so.
yeah, so she's kind of, like, realizing all of this and freaking out, and Nazarene is like, this is all great, but, like, there are 2 prisoners left and we have to save them, so, like, let's get back on track with this and then we'll, talk about this later. Yeah, so she sprints, like, across the courtyard to try to save these last 2 prisoners. She basically just kills them all.
Yeah, they kill all the guards in that scenario and get
them
out. Yeah, so
she's
the big
able.
kind
She
of,
like you got.
I was gonna say the big thing that plays a huge part in tomorrow's activity is that she now has to anticipate the word marks.
Mm-hmm.
It does turn out, we learned as he was leaving in Airfire, he grabbed Celaena's books and Fleetfoot. And so he also lets her know that I have the book on word marks. And so Aelin, of course, spent the remainder of that evening studying the word marks and, like, okay,
and, like, preparing her plan.
Yeah, figure out how to get through these, like, barricades that might be set. And they don't know it's going to happen. Turns out it does. Like, there are word marks everywhere. So, like, she does need this information, which is nice. But, yeah, that's a big one. Aelin then, like, leaves. So, Chaol and Nezrin kind of take these prisoners and rescue them. And then Aelin kind of stays along the rooftops and knows that she's being followed. And she really, like, tried to lure I think she tried to be spotted when she was while they were killing people.
Mm-hmm.
To be followed by the commanders so she can still get more Volg information. And so she notices them following her and kind of lures them to, like, towards a sewer area. And then she takes out the set of guards who are going to go into the sewer. This is another point. So in the shadow market, you also are kind of given information that, like, the Vol commanders are using the sewers to move around as well. And so this really hits home that, like, this is how they are traveling so quickly from the castle to these locations to other locations, is like they're utilizing the sewer system. Which is unfortunate because so are the rebels.
Yep.
So
that's okay though. So the next bit that we get is the day that Adian is supposed to be executed. It's the day of the prince's birthday party because the king,
of course,
basically is throwing a big party, and the entertainment is that they're going to execute Adian for Dorian's birthday, pretty much.
Yay, happy birthday, Dorian.
And
love that for you.
It's basically this whole section is like Adian's being, like, prepared and, cleaned up and ready for his execution. They're, like, getting him dressed and, I don't know, getting him ready for the chopping block, I guess.
Yeah.
And his entire inner dialogue is just, like, that he's ready to die and that his whole goal for this whole day is to figure out how to die before Aelin gets herself in trouble. And he says, Adian Ash River was ready to die. It was just about finding the right moment to meet the end of his own choosing.
Yeah, he goes through this, like,
well written.
How he's like, I'm not getting decapitated. I'm going to fight till the very end.
Yeah.
And so you get this idea that he, like, right as he's about to die, he's going to make, like, a final stand.
Yeah.
Something. And you're like, let's go. He goes from the person he was where he was letting himself die because of this infection, like due to this infection, to this like, nah, I'm gonna make another stand. So it's like he kind of like when he's on this like upswing of like, the king's not gonna embarrass me or my queen, and I'm gonna fight back to like the very, very end, which I think is great. We also flashback to a Dorian / demon. Little bits, you get this like idea that little bits of Dorian are being taken over. So like obviously Dorian wasn't controlling his body when he was walking to and from places.
Yeah.
In this section, you get this
battle.
Yeah, he's losing a bit more. The demon can now see through his eyes. So he's kind of broken down that barrier, which is like this barrier that we keep hearing about that Dorian is like fighting against and repairing over and over again. I think that's a big thing. So it's just like slowly more and more of him is getting taken over.
Away.
Just
sad. So sad.
We don't like.
Aelin is also preparing for the day of Adian's execution. We find out that part of their plan is that she's going to work with her old dance instructor. So the whole plan to get in is that Aelin is going to be dressed up in disguise as one of the dancers, as like the understudy to this troupe of dancers who are giving a performance at the birthday party, which is going to give her the ability
10
to
or
like
12 of them or something.
Yeah, because she's the understudy, it'll like give her the ability to not have to perform, but also like be there and around and kind of walk around. It's very clever. And Madame Florine and her have like a really nice relationship. She used to dance and would take her dancing lessons because she, you know, would have to go to fancy parties and stuff, and would be kept up to date on all of the like more recent dances. But Madame Florine didn't continue to like charge her after she left Erebin and like didn't have the money anymore, and would let her play on like the piano forte in the like dance studio. So like they have this really like lovely relationship, and was like happy to try to help Celaena get in. And kind of like in exchange, when everything goes crazy, Erebin would help Madame Florine and her dancers get out and like basically sail away to like safety. So things go almost terribly trying to get into the castle. They were right that like there were word marks on the wall, so she has to like basically fake a temper tantrum in front of all of the guards when they're like checking people to come in. And she so funny, she gets them to bring her water and is like having a complete breakdown, and Madame Florine is like,
I need water right
get your shit
now.
together. And she like, as they walk closer, like she basically uses the water and trips and like spills it on the word marks so that they get ruined. And then like walks right in, like completely fine.
The thing I like,
dear God,
the person that delivers water to her is Ress.
Oh, that's true. Ress is the one that like, brings her the water. She's like, water, I need water. And Ress immediately like whips around and like
he's
goes
like,
to get the water.
Right now, water. Got it. Okay, cool. I'm gonna help her. I'm gonna do it. I got water. And he like looks scared, but you're like, yes, okay, cool.
Yeah, it's great.
So she's going in with Florine, and they have conversations and like little parts. And Florine leans into this, like, she mentions something about her like queenliness, majesty type thing. Like Florine knows that she's about Aelin.
Just like, oh, okay.
Which I loved that.
Yeah.
Because it makes all of the backstory of her doing all these things for her, aside from it, of like, I knew you were Aelin the whole time, and I was always on your side. And I would always be on your side. And she makes this note of like, any kingdom needs, I hope you remember, like with your kingdom, that every kingdom needs like music and needs like arts. And I found that to be such a good little interaction between the two of them that it like made my heart happy.
Yeah, it was very cute. And she says she says something like, if you want there to be music like in your kingdom and arts, like that she should like let her know and like find her after everything's like settled down.
So Florine says Piter, who was like the conductor for the orchestra, which we learned in book
which were all
2 that
killed
they all got killed because they played music of every
Yeah.
kingdom. Florine whispered, the color leaching from her tan cheeks. There was no finer conductor, no greater ear. He made my career. He helped me establish all this. She waved a hand to encompass the dancers, the castle, the prestige she had acquired. I miss him. I will miss going to hear him conduct the Stygian suite every autumn. Madame Florine wrapped her arms around herself, despite the guards ahead. Despite the task that neared, with every tick of the clock, it took Aelin a moment to be able to speak again. You've memorized the preparations for you and your girls. Those who wish to flee may come on the ship Erebin hired. I have made space for all, just in case. If they're stupid enough to stay in Rifthold, then they deserve their fate. She then says, thank you. Now there's something you never learned from your master, which I thought was funny for her to say.
When you shatter the chains of this world and forge the next, remember that art is vital as food to a kingdom. Without it, a kingdom is nothing and will be forgotten by time. I have amassed enough money in my miserable life to not need any more. So you will understand me clearly when I say that wherever you set your throne, no matter how long it takes, I will come to you and I will bring music and dancing.
And then so they get in, and of course Aelin is posing as an understudy. And so she doesn't actually have to be on stage. So she's off to the side, being Aelin. And that's where Adian notices her. He also notices that she disappears behind a curtain. And then she comes back out and she looks different. She has a cape on. She kind of has a different gait and walk to her. And you realize that this is where Lysandra came in. Like, she taught Aelin how to blend into a crowd. She taught Aelin that you're going to have to put the disguise of another individual like
quick
on.
change.
So she poses as a friend of Erebin or a co-conspirator of Erebin. I don't really remember his role, but he's just another person. Someone calls this gentleman's name and Adian makes a like mental note that like he turns his head and waves, and this is Aelin disguised as this man. And is like, yeah, that's me. Hi, how's it going? Like waves to him. And then she continues on her way. And as she's on her way, Adian notices this has all been a distraction. She like staggers slightly, and then there is this explosion that takes place, and all of the powder turns into smoke and catches on fire.
Behind them, across the hall, the dancers shattered their roses onto the floor, and Adian grinned at his queen as the entire world went to hell. It wasn't just the flowers that had been rigged with a reactive powder that Aelin had quietly purchased at the Shadow Market. Every bit of sparkling dust the dancers had tossed about had been full of it. Mm-hmm. And it was worth every damned silver she'd spent as smoke erupted through the room, igniting the power they'd been scattering everywhere. So this is her big distraction. She do a poof magic trick, and she makes smoke appear, and then she gonna take Adian, and also the sword, because they brought the sword of Orinth as well, so she gonna get that back. It's her father's sword.
Yep.
And like, is like, okay, great, it's go time, and like goes to Adian to get him up and out. And Adian is not super ready to be lifted out of there, because he is extremely weak from whatever they've been doing to him.
He's mentally ready. Like, the second he
Yep.
realizes that it's Aelin, it's like his whole mentality switches. He's like, my queen, she's here for me. Like, let's go. We're going to do this. I wrote in our notes.
It was very cool. It does say
cap.
the fourth. Go ahead.
I wrote in our notes, all caps, the great escape! Exclamation
The
point!
great escape.
Exclamation point! Like, we're doing it. This is it.
He's like not at his full strength or whatever, but it does say the fourth strike of the clock sounded, and there was Adian, the 3 guards around him impaled by shards of his stool.
Yep.
He was huge, even bigger up close. The Adian just killed 3 guards by impaling them by shards of his stool.
Yeah.
I guess Adian
He's
broke.
like, distraction,
So
break
great.
stool, kill people. And he's like, I'm still chained to the ground. And she's like, don't worry, duck. Throws a dagger at another dude behind him. Like, okay, now let's get your chains off. Sounds great. And she did voodoo word mark magic, and the chains just fell off his ankles.
Yeah. So she had been practicing the word marks and is using the word marks to get like the chains off of him and like get them out. And she like picks him up, and they basically start booking it for the exit. And they get outside, they get like into the courtyard, and then they run into Dorian in their
Dorian/demon.
Dorian/demon. Mostly demon.
I can't just say it's Dorian because it's not.
I know.
It's Dorian/demon.
So this I love this part a lot. She talks to Dorian Demon and tries to get Dorian to give her a sign. She waits for so long and tries so many different things, basically while she's ready to kill him. Like, the Vogue tries to like attack her with a wall of tainted powder. With a wall of tainted power. She like unsheaths the blade and basically like is just doing everything she can to try to get him to show her, wink, twitch, something. Do something, Dorian.
Yeah, she's like, one sign, Dorian, she said. Just give me one sign that you're in there. And you get his like inner dialogue of like, he tried.
I know.
To do it too.
He gets like, you get nothing.
Yeah.
And this whole time she's like drawing word marks in the ground at like with her feet, so that when he lunges for her, that she like traps him, and he gets trapped and like still, and she still tries again to get him to show
say
something,
anything.
Do anything.
Any sign.
And just as she's about to go for like the killing blow, Nezarin like shoots an arrow. Shoots an arrow down, hitting the gravel as it landed. Nezarin was already approaching, another arrow drawn, pointed at Adian. Strike the prince and I'll shoot the general. Nezarin is pissed because she's like, you lied to us. And Aelin is trying to get them to see sense in that, like, Dorian's not in
the
there.
Prince anymore. Like, he's not Dorian.
And I think Nezarin kind of knows too, but is still like loyal to Chaol in that, you know, they're going to try as much as they can to get him out or save him.
Yeah, I think she has an idea that like she might know more than us, but I only have as much information as I have from Chaol about this. So it's like,
and then they all just book it. Because that's not
like,
going to hold him
all right,
for very
cool,
long.
Good luck, have fun. We're
fine, whatever.
Now.
He's your problem now. I'm leaving.
Yeah, pretty much. Aelin grabs Adian and is like, "All right, you can deal with him then. Goodbye," and leaves Dorian and leaves Nezarin with him there, locked in place.
Nezarin gets away.
Nezarin gets away, but in this moment, you're like, "Oh, she just maybe made an enemy with Elaine." Aelin? What the fuck did my brain just do?
I think you went
Elena.
Elaine and no, you're right. Elena, Elide, Aelin. It's great. Thanks, Sarah.
Aelin.
Cool.
In that moment, my brain went, Aelin now thinks of her slightly as an enemy. Like,
yeah, I mean, she's
but also maybe not.
They were allies.
Yeah.
They definitely weren't friends. So they make it out, and they basically get picked up by Lysandra, and poor Adian, is like absolutely not in good shape, but they like shove him into like the bottom compartment underneath like their feet in the carriage, because that's where they put him to hide, because they're checking carriages like on the way out. And they do end up making it out of kind of where the party is after all of this chaos.
There is a point where she's like telling him to run. He's very injured, as we are
He's
very
so
well aware.
injured.
He has like a wound across his abdomen that opens, pretty much it splits his stitches in this like maneuver to get out. And she just yells, "Run! Hurry, you hulking ass!" It's one of my favorites. She's like, I understand you're in pain, but just like block it out and move. It's like, there's only 4 more blocks to go. Like, let's just keep going. You can't slow down. You have to just go.
His inner dialogue, this was all some hallucination. It had to be. No one would actually have been stupid enough to try to rescue him, especially not his own queen. Even if he'd seen her cut down 6 men, like so many stalks of wheat. Yay! They make it out. It's so great.
They do. Lysandra, so these carriages too are all part of Aelin utilizing Arobyn's.
Yeah, it's why she needed. It's
like,
one of the reasons why she needed Arobyn.
Tools. Yeah, she really needed all of his like.
Because Arobyn has all the connections, so he can like set up all of the stuff. She still has to do all the work, but like he can set up everything for like, okay, great. Once you do what you need to do to actually get him out, we can make sure you get away safely.
Yeah,
we can help you get in.
There are 2 carriages. I found this like very like James Bond-esque. Like, you have 2 carriages and they come like close to close and slow down in this like alleyway to pass each other. Each other, and you just get the 2 carriage doors open. They throw Adian into the other one, and Aelin goes in the other one with Chaol driving that one, or Chaol's in there somewhere, and then Lysandra just keeps going on her way, like as if nothing happened. So like the 2 carriages just like pass, and so I just found that very like
it's very fun.
It's a fun little
heist
thing.
Gotta swap cars.
Yeah, just a quick little. Oh no, our carts are just going slow because we're in this really tight alleyway that we can't barely fit in. It's fine. They do end up making it back to her apartment.
They make it back to her apartment. They like set him up in the guest room.
Lysandra gets back there and starts like
Lysandra gets back as well,
healing him.
Everyone's safe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, they make it back to the apartment. He's set up in the guest bedroom. Lysandra comes back and is like, "Where is he?" kind of thing. And Aelin like points her to the bedroom, and Lysandra pretty much takes it upon herself to just start like mending Adian. So he split his stitches when they were running. Like she gives him whatever tonics she has and other random things, and so that he can be good. Gets him in like the bath and like pretty much is like, "I'll deal with your cousin. You do the rest of the stuff you have to do." And this is where Chaol has found out now that she was going to kill Dorian. Or she was on the verge to, and Nesryn stopped it. This whole conversation is another fuck you, Chaol, because you're like, you can't see what's right in front of you. So they, of course, argue about this. He only has, of course, Nesryn's side, doesn't have the fact that she was trying to get Dorian to give her any sign of existing.
Yeah. You tried to kill him. You said you tried to get him out, to help him, and you tried to kill him. You want to know what I did? I gave him 1 minute. I gave up 1 minute of my escape to him. Do you understand what can happen in 1 minute? Because I gave 1 to Dorian when he attacked Adian and me today to capture us. I gave him a minute in which the fate of my entire kingdom could have been changed forever. I chose the son of my enemy. And then this fucking sack of shit says, "You're a liar. You've always been a liar, and today was no exception. You had a sword over his head." "I did, and before Philippe arrived to wreck everything, I was going to do it. I should have done it, as anyone with common sense would have, because Dorian is gone. I do not owe you an apology. Don't talk down to me like you're my queen." Excuse me, my good man. What the fuck? This conversation makes... Why is this like the 5th time I have to read this? I don't want to read this anymore. I hate Kale, and he's a sack of shit.
Hmm?
"No, I'm not your queen, but you're going to have to decide soon whom you serve, because the Dorian you knew is gone forever. Otterland's future does not depend on him anymore."
Get your head out of your ass, Kale.
She basically sends him to the roof to like take the first watch, and Kale just like stands there, and she's like, "I'm not your queen, but I do have to go take care of my cousin now. So if you could please go take the first watch, that'd be great." And that's when Lysandra hears that she said queen.
What do you mean, queen?
What do you mean, queen? Aelin went, swearing under her breath. "That's exactly the word I'd use," Lysandra said, her face pale. Aelin said, "My name. Oh, I know what your real name is, Aelin."
This is also a point where you can tell that they've all kind of matured slightly.
Except for Kale.
Because Aelin pretty much says, "You understand why I had to keep it a secret." And Lysandra says, "Of course I do. You don't know me, and more lives than yours are at stake." "No, I do know you." Lysandra's eyes, the wider the gap across the room felt, Aelin swallowed. "Until I had Adian back, I wasn't going to take any chances. I knew I would have to tell you the moment you saw us in a room together. And Arabin knows. He's always known. This changes nothing between us, you know, nothing." Lysandra glanced behind her. The resemblance is uncanny. Gods, the fact that you went undiscovered for so many years boggles the mind. Even though he's a handsome bastard, it'd be like kissing you. Her eyes were still hard, but a flicker of amusement gleamed there. "I could have lived without knowing that." She shook her head. "I don't know why I was ever nervous you would start bowing and scraping." Light and understanding danced in Lysandra's eyes. Where would the fun be in that? So it's just this, like, I feel like it could have ended similar to, like, Dorian finding out or, like, Kale finding out, but it really,
yeah, but like, Lysandra's not a sheltered, like, she knows. Like, she's so much more like Aelin than anyone else. So and good. It's very impressive, because this whole thing takes place in 2 pages.
Yep.
And I go from being so enraged, like the most angry I have been up until this point, to literally being like giggling, kicking my feet at Lysandra and hers like banter within like the next, like, it's how? How does she do this?
Yeah.
Anyways, Kale's a piece of shit. Lysandra's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah. Which, after Assassin's Blade, I don't think I would have necessarily assumed that.
But I also think that
going to be.
I also think that that's the same thing that happened with like Caltaine.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly would not have, after reading that first book, I'd be like, Caltaine got herself into this shit and it's on her. Oh well. And now I'm like, oh my god, this poor woman is just, she's been manipulated to high hell and she just can't get out of it. It's so sad. I feel so bad for her.
So we have now saved Adian.
Yay!
He's out. And with Aelin. And gonna recover. So now let's go hang out with the witches again.
Yep. We actually wrap up something in a positive way and then move on to other things, rather than a cliffhanger and then move on to other things.
It's great.
Yay!
So this is where we learn. This is where it clicked for me. I did read Assassin's Blade, obviously right before this. But this is the point where it clicked. Oh. We were given a little bit more information about Vernon
Yep.
and
The uncle.
his heritage, and my brain went, oh, Alede, the daughter of Marion.
Yep.
Duh. I knew that.
I mean, I think it's on purpose that it's not like 100% described as like Alede, daughter of Marion. Do you remember from that other book?
Yeah.
Like,
this is where it clicks. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So this is about the time. Alede is still kind of doing her thing. She's playing the servant. She still has this like, oh, I don't know what they meant by calling me witchling. I don't think I'm a witch or a witchling. She runs into the wing leader again, or Manon, and Manon pretty much calls her out. Alede has put on this facade that she is like meek and unable to like care for herself, and she stutters, she, like, and she's scared and like all this other stuff. So she puts on this like show that I'm scared and I can be trusted because I would never step out of line, even though like in the back of her head she's trying to escape this whole time.
Yeah.
And like leave this area. And Manon pretty much calls her out. And she's like, stop pretending that you're scared right now. Because you're not. I could smell everything on you. So like, maybe just don't lie to me. That's what I would prefer. And
she's also like saying this because she still thinks that she's a spy.
Mm-hmm.
And Alede's response basically is like, if I were a good spy, I could also read. And Manon's like, what do you mean you can't read? And like, this is one of the other things that kind of solidifies that like Vernon's a piece of shit and did all of this stuff on purpose.
Yeah.
And like does not care at all about Alede because he like didn't help her at all. Like when she grew up. Like didn't get anyone to teach her how to read or write. Or like raise her to be a lady. Yeah. Like nothing. So she like knew her basic letters, but then her nursemaid or her, I don't know, her nanny, can't remember what they call her, governess, I don't know, like also didn't know how to read. So like she didn't get taught anything.
Yeah. She pretty much had someone like taking care of her so that she wouldn't die.
And that woman still taught her like everything that she could. Like she cared about Alede. But she could only teach her as much as she knew. And she this is when Manon also like questions her to find out if Alede knows that she's got witch's blood.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like Alede like tells her what she wants to know, and it's that like her mother definitely was the witch side, because Alede says that she was lowborn from Rossamel, which is in the northwest of Terrazin. I know where it is. Get out. Okay. Thanks, Manon. Okay, so she basically, like, Manon figures out that she's got the witch blood from her mom's side, and then just, like, kicks out Alede. And this is when Abraxos comes and, like, sniffs Alede and, like, looks at her and stuff. And Abraxos is, of course, our sweet puppy dog.
Yeah.
Is, like, super chill with Alede. And is like, she looks great. Like, love her.
He notices that she has chains on her legs, too. And he, like, puts his head down, like, does the typical, like, chin on ground and, like, reaches his snoot all the way to her. And she's like, I'm not really scared of him. And she starts asking questions about the wyverns at this point. Alede does.
Yeah. She asks,
she's how do they exist? Yeah. The king made them. I don't know how, and it doesn't matter. Abraxos was still staring up at her, and the wing leader said, let's go hunt Abraxos. The beast perked up, and Alede jumped back a step, wincing as she landed hard on her ankle. The wyvern's eyes shot to her, as if aware of the pain, but the wing leader was already finishing with the saddle and didn't bother to look in her direction as Alede limped out. So you get this idea of, like, Abraxos sees that she's in pain and doesn't like it.
Yeah. Abraxos probably sees a lot of himself in Alede.
Yes.
Literally the next sentence is, "You soft-hearted worm," Manon hissed at Abraxos.
Mhm.
A
It's so
crippled leg and a few chains and you're in love? Yeah,
He's like, yeah, leave me
of course I
alone.
am.
I have a heart. Shut your mouth.
Don't worry, I'll teach you how to love other people too.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
The reason Alid was coming to Manon to begin with is she had a letter, and it was a letter from Manon's grandmother, of course, yelling at her to not disobey the Duke's orders because she was questioning the Duke and like the witches being taken and doing stuff on them.
Yeah.
So this is another point where
terrifying.
she's like being threatened by her grandmother. Do not disobey the Duke's orders. Do not question him, or I will fly down there myself and hang you by your intestines with your 13 and that runt of a beast beside you. So she's like, okay, I don't necessarily agree with this thing that's taking place, and my 13 are like not thrilled with this idea either. But like, it's that or my grandmother shows up. So like,
yeah,
what do I do?
Great.
Clearly she has a bigger plan, and so like I'm supposed to listen to her.
So Manon leaves to go find out more about the Vogue, and she goes to one of her 13 that is the bookworm of the group.
Yes.
She's the one who has like all of the knowledge. And she asks her like a bunch of questions about the Vogue, and she doesn't learn a whole lot. And it's funny, Celaena talks to her like she's like the dumb one.
She's like, there's too
much
to tell you in one sitting, but I'll give you the basics. If you want to know more, you can come back.
Yeah. She's so great. I also love the dynamic of the two of them, of like Manon basically is like, is the wing leader and is not supposed to be talked to disrespectfully, but in this one respect, like
she's like, I'll allow it.
Yeah, she lets just Ghislaine like talk to her that way because she is the one who knows what she's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But she basically tells Manon of like the witches are from Vogue and humans, I guess.
Fae.
Okay, no, you're right. Sorry.
Yeah. Millennia ago, the Vogue broke into this world. Witches did not exist. It was the Vogue and the Fae and humans. But the Vogue were demons, I suppose. They wanted our world for their own, and they thought a good way to get it would be to ensure their offspring could survive here. The humans weren't compatible, too breakable, but the Fae, the Vogue kidnapped and stole whatever Fae they could, and because your eyes are getting that glazed look, I'm going to jump to the end and say, the offspring became us, witches. The Iron Teeth took after our Vogue ancestors more than the Kraken, and the Krakens got more of their Fae traits. The people of these lands didn't want us here, not after the war, but the Fae King Brannon didn't think it was right to hunt us all down. He gave us the Western Wastes, and there we went until the witch wars made us exiled again. So we kind of knew a lot of this
glazed look, so I'm gonna skip to the end.
Yeah,
so good.
I really enjoyed that. She asks, are the Vogue wicked? We are wicked. The Vogue, legend has it, they're the origin of evil. They are blackness and despair incarnate. So like these are all things that we've kind of gathered as the reader throughout the books. And so pretty much Manon is now brought up to speed of kind of, this is a summary of all the stuff we've learned so far. It's not really new information. It's just brought up again of like how we know. We know that they're darkness. We know all of this stuff, but it's got a little bit more oomph to it. Yeah. And in one location. This is when Manon still is not sure what she wants to do about the offspring situation. She does not want to send the Blackbeaks, that's for sure. And in this time of her deciding, this is when one of the leaders of one of the Yellow Leg clans comes to volunteer to be the experiment.
So basically, like, rather than Manon actually having to make a decision and us getting to know what her decision would have been, a clan, like, volunteers. So she tells the Duke I have your clan. It's a coven of yellow legs under a witch named Ninya. And he is pissed and is like, I wanted black beaks. She's like, you get yellow legs. They volunteered. And he's still like pissed because he feels like they're like not deceiving him, but like not falling in line, which they aren't.
No.
Thank
She's
God.
not going to fall in line to a human. Like, that's not how she's going to play.
Yeah. And this is like one of the times where Manon is like, you know what? Maybe they can just all burn in hell.
Mm-hmm. She had not missed the words, this world, not this land, not this continent. Pretty much, they want to take over the world, is like the gist of the Duke. Like, she gets this kind of idea that that's what the king wants.
Yeah, from the fact that he uses that language of the world.
He says along the lines of, this world has too long swelled in ignorance. And this is where she's like, she catches him saying this world and not this land or this continent. But we're fucked is what that says.
She wondered whether her grandmother had considered the idea that they might one day have to fight to keep the wastes. Fight like the very men who had helped them take back their home.
Mm-hmm.
Ruh-roh. Yeah, that's a good point, Manon. You should think more on that.
Yep.
And while you think more on that, we're gonna go back to Dorian for more depression time. He had tried. When the blood-soaked woman had spoken to him, when those turquoise eyes had seemed so familiar, he had tried to wrest away control of his body, his tongue, but the demon prince in him held firm, delighted in his struggle. He couldn't remember his name. He couldn't remember who she was.
Yeah.
But he wished she had killed him. He hated her for not killing him. No! And then we flip to Kale, and we have to look at Kale again.
Yeah. I'm happy that she hasn't killed him. I'm happy that it's not... My hope is that they can save Dorian.
Everyone's hope is that they can save Dorian.
My hope is that they can save Dorian, and that Kale is not in vain believing that Dorian can be saved.
You know, there's that part that you don't want to believe Kale's right. But also, I really don't want Dorian to die.
Yeah, I don't want Dorian to die.
I won't be able to handle it.
Exactly.
The suffering.
Yes. So, we're back to Kale.
So now we just get back to Kale, and he's fucking being an asshole.
My first note for this section is, oh no, Kale is alone. Shut the fuck up.
It literally does say, shut the fuck up, Kale.
Yeah.
One thing that I do like about this chapter specifically, and I don't know if I'm going to say it's on purpose because it maybe will make me less angry at Kale. He's just taking everything out on her that he feels about himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Because this one thing says liar. Aelin was and had always been a goddamn liar. She was as much an oathbreaker as he was, worse. And I'm like, oh, this is about you. Mm-hmm. You're just a piece of shit, and this is all about you. All of this anger and frustration. You're angry at Aelin for not being able to save Dorian. You're angry at Aelin for trying to kill him. Yeah, for leaving. Which you did! Guys, you just... He's infuriating. Mm-hmm. He should have considered the cost. Maybe he was the fool. There you go. Only smart thing you said in your head this entire goddamn book, bud. Okay?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. You are the fool. I hate it. He goes to see
Nezrin. He's feeling sorry for himself, and he's
what
like,
Nezrin
only
does.
One person likes me. I'm gonna go say hi to Nezrin. And she's like, no, I don't really like you either. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Bitch.
She literally... for distraction. He goes there for distraction. And Nezrin's like, yeah? Okay. And he's like, not for that. Not that kind of distraction. he's... Let's just imagine that Aelin is right, that Dorian is gone. What then? She's not right. Let's just imagine. She's not right! He slammed his fist on the table hard enough to rattle his glass of water. Why? Because then it's all for nothing. Everything that happened, it's all for nothing. You wouldn't understand. I wouldn't? A cold question. You think I don't understand what's at stake? I don't care about your prince. Not the way you do. I care about what he represents for the future of his kingdom, for the future of people like my family. I won't allow another immigrant purge to happen. I don't ever want my sister's children coming home with broken noses again because of their foreign blood. You told me Dorian would fix the world, make it better. If he's gone, if we made the mistake today in keeping him alive, then I will find another way to attain that future. And another one after that, if I have to. I will keep getting back up no matter how many times those butchers shove me down. I love her.
I love her, but I hate his fucking response. His response of...
She says,
were you ever hurt?
Yeah.
What, she had to be hurt for it to actually matter? You piece of shit.
So dumb. I won't abandon him. You're even more hard-headed than the queen. He's so frustrating.
You actually admit to liking me? Fucking Kale. Stay the course, but plot a new path. He could do that. He could try at least. Maybe he's finally gonna realize that, like, maybe Dorian can't be saved. I still don't want Dorian to die, but I also want Kale to get his head out of his ass. That'd be really cool, sick, and tight.
Cool, sick, and tight. We go back to Aedion and Aelin. Aedion wakes up in Aelin's apartment. And
I was gonna say, this is kind of where we were talking about how he thought it was all like a dream. He was hallucinating.
Yeah.
So like this part, he's like, oh, I've been in this apartment before. I know this apartment. I know this room. I know this layout. Like, I know where we are. Because he obviously was meeting in her apartment in Air of Fire when he was like working with
They've been
Kale.
using it for like a safe house, basically.
Yeah. I did also like that Aedion has his Fey blood. And he has a very good sense of smell. And he smells Rowan on Aelin. And he's like, the fuck? Rowan?
Well, he smells someone.
Yep. He smells someone.
Doesn't know that it's Rowan, but just smells like another person mixed with her scent.
Yes. He's like, huh? About that? What is this? What's happening?
But he like wakes up and sees her like asleep next to his bed and mouths her name. As if she heard it, she opened her eyes, coming fully alert as she scanned the doorway, the room beyond, then the bedroom itself for any danger. And then finally she looked at him and went utterly still, even as her hair shifted in the gentle breeze. I'm ready to accept your thanks for my spectacular rescue at any time, you know? Yay! They have this, like, just beautiful reunion.
Yeah, they, like, she crawls into, like, bed with him, and they just, like, talk and go over kind of their pasts and, like, what happened since they were separated as children. And it's so nice.
It's really just, like, a very, very lovely reunion that they have. And they do tell each other, like, everything that's happened. Both, like, because it was nice because up until this point, they've both been so in their heads about what the other person is going to think and say about them. And, like, as soon as they get to see each other, they're, like, right back into the way that they interacted before. Like, it's just picking up right where they left off. And they tell each other everything about their lives up until this point, basically. Except for one little caveat that's definitely going to come up later, and he's going to be pissed, is the blood oath kind of thing. He does mention the blood oath. I think in his head he like talks about the blood sworn stuff, and the whole time as a reader you're like, ooh,
about that.
Rowan's got that. She doesn't tell him that Rowan is blood sworn. She tells him about Rowan.
In this point?
I think the part where they're like, tell me everything, they do talk about Rowan.
Lysandra, Kale, and Ezrin.
Because they say later they talk about, like, what is it? Adian just kind of brings it up, like, naturally. Like, so what's he like?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that in this conversation is like the first time that it gets brought up, at least.
I think he smells someone on her, but I don't think he knows about it being Rowan at this point, at least. I do like that they, of course, are both in their heads. So she asks, "Are you ashamed of what I've done?" She dared to ask. His brow creased. Why would you ever think that? She couldn't quite look him in the eye as she ran a finger down the blanket. Are you? Adian was silent for long enough that she lifted her head, but found him gazing towards the door as though he could see through it, across the city to the captain. When he turned to her, his handsome face was open, soft in a way she doubted many ever saw. Never, he said. I could never be ashamed of you. You survived. I survived. We're together again. I once begged the gods to let me see you, if only for a moment. To see you and know you'd made it, just once. That was all I ever hoped for. Whatever you had to do to survive, whatever you did from spite or rage or selfishness, I don't give a damn. You're here, and you're perfect. You always were, and you always will be.
It's so sweet.
I missed you, she whispered onto him, breathing in his scent. That male warrior scent she was just learning, remembering. Every day I missed you. Her skin grew damp beneath his face. Never again, he promised. My heart.
They're best buddies.
I love them. And of
It makes
course,
me so happy that she gets family back.
Yes. I love that she has someone that's like there for her. And then of course we pivot and Aelin has to go do some badass shit.
Yeah.
And she's like,
now she's rescued.
Sorry, Aiden, but you need to stay here.
Yeah, Adian, you have to stay here because you're not strong enough. I have to go catch a demon now. And he's like,
Yeah.
fucking excuse me, what? Please.
Like, what?
Be
What do you
careful.
mean?
They used to be able to find the Volg in the sewers like a lot easier. Like they had like these nests. And since the escape, the great escape, they've kind of retreated out of, or not retreated, but like have moved out of the sewers. So the only place that they can think of to go and find a Volg demon for her to try to capture is to go to the pits, which is not the vaults, because the vaults is gone now and it's just been replaced. Because of course, that's how, the underworld works. Once you knock one crime lord down, another one's just gonna pop up with the same shit.
Yeah.
So she basically is like doing this for Arabin to go fight in the pits to like show off Arabin as an investment. And Celaena is like, Aelin is supposed to go in there and like fight to prove that Arabin is like still a good investment and that people should hire his assassins or whatever.
Yep. Because no one knows. They just think she's Celaena.
Yeah, she also uses a different name. She asks, like, am I doing this as Celaena? And Arabin's like, I don't care what name you use whatever name you want. Just get in there and fight so that I can make my money.
Mm-hmm. At this point, Kale and Nezrin go with her as like backup, I guess.
Yeah, to make sure that nothing goes wrong. Because she is fighting a Volg commander.
Yep.
So she goes to fight, and she says that her name is Ansel of Briarcliff. And then her opponent, she chooses the Volg commander that's like there
in charge
with all of the other Volg.
Yeah, he's like the head of that group.
Yeah, the head of that
kind
group.
Of there.
And Cal's like, fuck. God damn it.
Mm-hmm. And Ansel is a nice little tie back to Assassin's Blade as well. Because Ansel is her friend, sort of. Was the closest thing she had ever had to a friend other than Sam.
True.
So, sort of friend.
She did shoot at her, but she missed on purpose, so that's fine.
Yes. She waited 21 minutes instead of 20.
20. Yeah. Just extra time. The fight is pretty cool.
The pit lord began shouting the rules. Simple. There were none, save for no blades, just hands and feet and wits. Gods above. Aelin stilled her pacing, and Kale had to elbow an overeager man in the stomach to keep from being shoved into the pit. The Queen of Terrasen was in a fighting pit in the slums of Rifthold. No one here, he wagered, would believe it. He was hardly able to believe it himself. We were like,
it's because she's more badass than you give her credit for.
Yep. She is going to do all the things she needs to do, and this is one of the things.
Yeah. So they fight. Everyone is very impressed with her fighting skills because she's amazing and she's able to like get the best of this commander. She's doing really well. She basically like gets control of him and like puts her arm around like his neck basically, and the commander bites her and basically is able to tell from biting her like who she is. And she's like, all right, well, now I've got to end him.
Die now.
Yep, he's got to go now. He taunts her and also gives her some information by taunting her. He says, I should bring you down to Morath myself, half-breed, and see how much you talk then. See what you make of all of the delicious things we do to your kind. Morath, Duke Parrington's keep. Chaos' stomach turned leaden. That's where they brought the prisoners who weren't executed, the ones who vanished in the night, to do the gods knew what with them. She basically gets control of it. She, like, looks to Arabin to give the all clear, basically, and Kael realizes in this moment that, like, she is only been making this fight go on longer to make sure that Arabin basically, like, got what his money's worth in this in this fight. And she, like, kills him, like, as soon as she gets the okay from Arabin.
Arabin did not want him to die, though.
Yeah. So, like, that's true. So he wanted the Volg commander alive to be able to, like, I don't know, interrogate him or whatever.
Yeah.
And she gets overexcited and kills him by accident instead.
Yeah. But and we know he definitely was killed because he had too much information, and she didn't know how. At this point, they don't know how they're communicating to the king. So she's like, fuck that. You're dead now. You know who I am. So sorry. You can't live anymore.
You can't be
We'll find another one.
That's twice now, darling. You haven't delivered. I said unconscious. Bloodlust got the better of me, it seems. Yeah. So he basically, like, storms off and is like, you better get me what I'm owed. And she, like, Aelin's, like, goes to leave. And he's such an asshole. He can't let her leave without getting the last word. Aren't you the least bit curious where we buried Sam? Is there a price for learning that information? You just paid it. I wouldn't put it past you to give me a fake location and have me bring stones to the wrong grave. Which is so true.
And there's a little bit about the stones. So she mentions bringing stones to the grave. That's a character trait of hers that is very much from Terracin. The idea was that instead of bringing flowers, which will die, stones are forever. And so you pick stones that are like beautiful and made of this world. And so you place them there as like a reminder forever that like your love for that person, which I thought was very sweet.
It's so sweet. She does get the information about where he's buried, and he's not buried in the crypts of the Assassin's Keep. She thinks, probably as an insult to Sam, not realizing Sam wouldn't have wanted to be buried in the keep anyway.
Yes.
And then she says, tell your new partners I'm officially retired, and leaves. Yay.
So we wrap up with the witches. We've wrapped up Aelin and her bargain. We've gotten Adian out, and now we're gonna wrap up kind of our witches. Elide has kind of had this plan to escape, and her goal was to escape with the wagons that like bring food in and out of Morath. She was like, no one will notice me if I just hitch a ride. Like, I'll just kind of jump in one of the carts. But as she's plotting this a little bit more, she's been working in the kitchen to get a little bit more information. Like, Astrid shows up. Astrid, as we know, is now third in command, not second anymore. So we have it on good authority that Manon didn't necessarily send her here. But you know that the 13 are kind of watching her. So like maybe she did, or maybe this is Astrid kind of taking a step out of line again. Astrid's first comment to her is, what makes you so dangerous to be chained up? Which I'm like, oh no, she has power that we don't know about or something. I still think it's the witch.
It was upsetting to me that I didn't realize that she was the only one chained up until this comment is made. I literally went, oh wait, what the fuck? Why is she the only one that's chained? And she's got like a foot that makes it hard for her to walk. So like, why is she chained?
What if it's iron chains and it's because she is magic and the iron's the only thing that stifles her witchness? I don't get it.
Like, part of me thinks that, like, again, I don't know why she's in chains, because it doesn't matter if she has magic, because there's no magic. So like, at first I was like, well, maybe it's because she is a witch and technically they can fly, but they can't fly because there's no magic. So why the fuck is she chained?
Maybe at the time that she got chained up, they didn't know she couldn't fly.
There is a very real possibility that it's not actually that deep and it just Vernon being an asshole.
So pretty much she's interrogated by Astrid while they're cleaning dishes. Astrid kind of pulls information from her, figures out her age, figures out that she is a lady of Paranth, gets a bit more information from her. And then later, Elide is like, now's my chance. Like, I have to escape, but I'm going to need money.
She realizes during this conversation, though, that she's asking all these questions possibly because she does have witch blood.
Yeah.
Like, Astrid asks so many questions that she kind of gives away the information to situation. Her.
Yeah.
She's like, witch blood? No, she's human. I'm fully human.
So she goes up to the wing leader's room and makes it seem like she's just cleaning her room. She's like, if I take a little gold from each individual pouch, these witches don't even care about gold or human things or like whatever. So it's not going to be any, she won't notice. So she starts taking gold. And of course, she gets caught by Manon and Manon is like, not as docile as you pretend to be, eh? Like, come on, stop faking it and let's figure it out. Manon pretty much pushes her to the point where Elide has to decide if she is of human blood or if she is of witch blood. Because Manon will only protect her kind. And that's pretty much what she says to her. And Elide takes her up on her protection and says, my blood runs blue. So that is the end of the first section. The first half of part 1, kind of first half of part 1, up to chapter 25. In our next episode, we will cover chapters 26 to 47, like Rachel said. We thank you all for checking out our podcast and getting to know us. We hope you enjoyed your time here, and you can find us at the Smut Peddlers on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok for additional content. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.